Chapter 21, Potions and Astronomy. Potions class is typically held in 2 consecutive sessions, making it the longest single class due to the intricate process of preparing medicinal ingredients and the lengthy boiling times required for many potions. Often, even 2 consecutive potions classes feel insufficient, especially for potions that demand extensive cooking times. In such cases, students have little room for error. A single mistake could prevent them from completing their potion in time. That day, besides potions, Ethan faced another challenging class, astronomy. Held at midnight to allow for clearer observation of the stars, astronomy class significantly disrupted Ethan's sleep schedule. The class took place in the astronomy tower, the highest point in the castle, under the guidance of Professor Aurora Sinistra. Despite her youthful appearance and profound knowledge of astronomy, Professor Sinistra's presence in the original narrative was minimal, suggesting that astronomy might not be crucial for wizards. However, Ethan soon discovered the immense magical power of celestial bodies. Every celestial object visible to the naked eye from Earth is a star emitting light from light years away. The magic power carried by this starlight, though faint, is significant for wizards, enabling them to perform simple spells like lighting a candle. More importantly, this magic serves as a bridge between the stars and the wizard. Through specific rituals, wizards can tap into the star's potent magic to perform what could only be described as miracles, using a relatively small amount of their own magic. Understanding the stars becomes essential for those wishing to harness their power for ritual magic. Conditions such as solar eclipses, full moons, alignments of 9 stars, cometary appearances, meteor showers, and planetary alignments play crucial roles in many magical rituals, particularly in astrology. For Ethan, aspiring to become a formidable mage and magic researcher, mastering astronomy was indispensable. His observations of the night sky not only deepened his understanding of the stars and destiny, but also improved his proficiency in the school of prophecy. Ethan gained 2 significant insights from his studies: the identification technique and micrometeor. The identification technique allows the caster to discern all magical properties of an item, including activation methods and remaining spell charges. This skill is invaluable for those dealing in magical artifacts, where the true nature and potential curses of items are often unknown. With this ability, Ethan could potentially open a successful shop in Diagon Alley. The micrometeor spell enables the caster to create tiny bolides, considered a supernatural weapon. Known in other realms as Mayufu's micrometeor, this spell is famed for its ability to challenge deities, despite its low level. In the Harry Potter world, without a Mayufu, this spell becomes Ethan's micrometeor, a seemingly modest yet powerful 3-ring spell. Spells, in terms of damage alone, are not always about sheer power. For instance, the spell Fireball from Arcane Magic or the Explosion spell from Black Magic are indeed powerful, but micrometeor holds a unique advantage. It is considered an extraordinary weapon due to its magical creation, meaning it can bypass certain immunities, such as those of a god's incarnation. In high-level battles, the key is not the amount of damage inflicted, but the ability to penetrate the enemy's defenses with specialized attacks. Many spells offer immunity to magic, specific elements, or certain alignments. Thus, the battle becomes a contest of wits and bravery, focusing on exploiting rule-based vulnerabilities. The force damage characteristic of micrometeor is particularly valuable in this context. Even minimal damage, if consistently applied, can accumulate to lethal effect, potentially even defeating gods. The evening's research proved quite rewarding, and Ethan's initial resentment for staying up late gradually faded. However, he cons idered that sleeping in might not be such a bad idea, especially with Defense Against the Dark Arts class scheduled for the next morning. This class is immensely popular among young wizards. Reviewing the first week's main courses, Transfiguration was found to be too abstract and challenging, causing much frustration. Charms class, which taught only a basic lighting spell, lacked excitement. Herbology, though somewhat interesting, was deemed too laborious and messy. History of Magic served primarily as an opportunity to catch up on sleep, and Potions was favored only by Slytherins. At this point, only Defense Against the Dark Arts and Flying Lessons held any appeal. with the latter being akin to Muggle physical education and naturally popular. Defense Against the Dark Arts, divided into studies of black magic and defensive techniques, attracted students with its promise of power and the thrill of confrontation. It's natural for children to crave strength and victory in battle. However, Ethan tempered his expectations for this semester's Defense Against the Dark Arts class, advising, "Just don't get your hopes up." On the way to class, Steve whispered, "I learned from Hufflepuff that Professor Quirrell's teaching level is only slightly better than Professor Binns." It was rare for the proud Ravenclaws to mingle with students from other houses, except for Hufflepuff, with whom they shared a surprisingly good relationship. Ethan, having friends from Ravenclaw, was an exception. His comment made the surrounding young wizards gasp. Yet, if an ordinary person were teaching, it might still be an improvement over Professor Binns. Professor Quirrell, as the least critical Hufflepuff put it, was only a little better than Professor Binns, the master of hypnosis. How bad could it be? A new month has arrived, and the author is here to request your support. Please consider voting, favoriting, sending flowers, casting monthly votes, and leaving comments. Your engagement is crucial for the author. Visibility and exposure are only possible with your data. Chapter 22. The Curse of the Defense Against the Dark Arts Position. When it comes to classroom knowledge, most young wizards find it tedious, but gossip always seems to awaken their interest. Ron, with excitement in his voice, shared, "George and Freddie told me that the Defense Against the Dark Arts position is cursed." This class was shared between Ravenclaw and Gryffindor, allowing Ron, Ethan, and others to gather. Such mysterious topics were always captivating. Steve immediately inquired further, and even the usually timid Neville joined to listen. Ron, basking in the attention, elaborated, "I've heard that this position is jinxed. For the past 30 years, every professor has met with some misfortune within a year of teaching, with none lasting more than a year. Some have even died in office. It's said that the position was cursed by a mysterious figure." As Ron spoke, the room fell silent, the nearby whispering ceased, and all ears were tuned to his tale. The mention of a mysterious person, death, and curse sparked a flurry of discussion. Some students began speculating on whether Professor Quirrell would last until the next year. Hermione, ever the skeptic, pointed out, "Hogwarts a history doesn't mention anything about this." Ethan, with a smile, responded, "Books are a reference, but they don't always hold the entire truth. Even Newton's laws were eventually revised." He continued, "But I believe there's truth to this. The Defense Against the Dark Arts position at Hogwarts has indeed seen a new professor each year for the last 30 years. Ethan's reasoning was so compelling that even Hermione seemed convinced, asking, "Can't even Dumbledore break this curse?" Ethan replied, "It seems so. Otherwise Dumbledore would have addressed it by now." It's peculiar that Hogwarts appears to need a new professor for this position every year. Ethan knew the curse was more dreadful than most realized. The fates of the former professors ranged from resigning due to unforeseen circumstances to suffering accidents that prevented them from teaching, with many ending up in St. Mungo's Hospital. This made the position notorious and hard to fill. However, the curse's true horror escalated with Harry Potter's arrival at Hogwarts. The Defense Against the Dark Arts professors during Harry's time, except for Quirrell and Lockhart, who met tragic ends, and Lupin, Moody, and Snape, who survived their tenure only to die in the final battle, highlighted the curse's severity. Even Voldemort, the curse's likely originator, met his demise. The only one to fare slightly better was Umbridge, who ended up in Azkaban. After class, Professor Quirrell's introduction left much to be desired. As the current Defense Against the Dark Arts professor, Quirinus Quirrell lacked the presence expected of a professor. His appearance, marked by a ridiculous purple turban and a pervasive smell of garlic, did little to inspire confidence. His stuttering introduction, "Hello everyone, I'm the Defense Against the Dark Arts Professor, Q Quirrell," only added to the students' skepticism. Ethan knew that Quirrell's background was more complex than it appeared. A competent Ravenclaw graduate and former Muggle studies teacher at Hogwarts, Quirrell had aspired to teach Defense Against the Dark Arts. His theoretical knowledge was sound, but the subject demanded practical experience in combating dark magic, prompting him to seek real-world experience. Frankly, I sought out malevolent creatures to hone my skills against dark wizards. Unexpectedly, this quest led me to the dark forest of Albania, where I encountered the leader of the dark wizards, Lord Voldemort. Interestingly, Voldemort, having been rejected for the Defense Against the Dark Arts professorship, cursed the position. Now, possessing Quirrell, he infiltrates Hogwarts to fulfill his thwarted ambition. In the first class, Professor Quirrell plans to teach us how to handle ghouls. However, the portrayal of ghouls in the Harry Potter universe starkly contrasts with their counterparts elsewhere. Hey lack the ability to paralyze their foes, chop down trees, or consume corpses to regain health, not to mention solve the puzzle of, what is 1000 minus 7? These seemingly fearsome creatures actually reside in wizards' attics or barns, subsisting on spiders and moths. Consequently, many wizards keep ghouls as pets, like the Weasley family, whose ghoul creates noise when the house is too silent. Ethan couldn't comprehend why such a harmless creature was included in the Defense Against the Dark Arts curriculum. He fundamentally questioned the course's premise, which purportedly focuses on defending against dark magic, but fails to address the real threats posed by dark wizards and their spells. What protection does it offer against genuine dark magic? Ethan even doubted the very definition of dark magic within the Harry Potter world, finding it vague. It seems any spell capable of harm is labeled as dark magic, which isn't necessarily true. Spells like the levitation charm could be lethal if misused, and even the infamous dark magic spell, the anus removal curse, was originally developed for medical purposes, with its inventor's portrait hanging in St. Mungo's Hospital. The notion that using dark magic requires malice overlooks the complexity of human nature, which encompasses both good and evil. To Ethan, dark magic is merely a tool, its study justified if applied appropriately. He viewed the prohibition of dark magic, as advocated by figures like Dumbledore, as an unrealistic moral idealism that could hinder the magical world's progress. The stagnation in the wizarding world, as evidenced by the International Confederation of Wizards Statute of Secrecy, protects wizards more than muggles. With memories of his past life, Ethan is acutely aware of the advancements Muggle technology will achieve in the coming decades. As a wizard, he naturally aligns with the magical community, but recognizes the need for a more open approach to teaching Defense Against the Dark Arts at Hogwarts. The avoidance of dark magic in education could spell trouble for the wizarding world's future. Ethan soon realized why Hufflepuff students considered Professor Quirrell inferior to even Professor Binns. Quirrell's teaching method, much like Binns, involved monotonously reading from the text. Although Binns, being a ghost, delivered his lectures in a dull tone, he did so fluently and occasionally engaged students with interesting side topics when in a good mood, history, and so on. And what about Professor Quirrell? His inability to read the text fluently, compounded by his stuttering, made attending his lectures an ordeal. Ethan seriously doubted that Dumbledore had chosen to invite Professor Quirrell solely because he was the only applicant. Consequently, Professor Quirrell became the butt of jokes among the young wizards. Rumors circulated that the garlic smell emanating from Quirrell was to ward off a vampire he had encountered in Romania, a vampire he feared might follow him to Hogwarts. Quirrell attempted to clarify that his scarf was a gift from an African prince, a token of gratitude for assisting him in escaping zombies, but his explanation fell on skeptical ears. Seamus Finnegan, growing impatient, once asked Professor Quirrell how he managed to defeat the resurrected zombies. The question caused Quirrell's face to flush with embarrassment, and his response was evasive. Even Hermione, who typically held a deep respect for her teachers, couldn't help but voice her concerns. Does Professor Quirrell's lack of proficiency stem from his nervousness about teaching for the first time? She was skeptical of her own suggestion, preferring not to speak ill of the professor outright. Ethan shattered her illusion. This isn't Quirrell's first time teaching. He previously taught Muggle studies here. Hermione's expression darkened, her disappointment in the course's future growing. She dreaded the thought of enduring 7 years of Defense Against the Dark Arts under such instruction. Despite the grim outlook, Ethan remained somewhat optimistic, believing that Quirrell's competence at least surpassed that of Gilderoy Lockhart. Mid-Autumn Festival and National Day Family Feedback. Recharge 100 and receive 500 VIP points. Don't miss out on this opportunity. Activity period, September 29th to October 6th. Chapter 23. In just 1 week, Ethan had fully demonstrated his exceptional talent. The young wizards and professors at Hogwarts were already aware that a remarkably outstanding first-year student had joined Ravenclaw. Despite being Muggle-born, his magical talent and learning ability surpassed those of all purebloods. Ethan excelled in every subject, from transfiguration and spells to potions. No challenge was too great for him. Even in flying class, Ethan stood out as one of the top flyers among the first-year students. Although Ethan's physical fitness was average, he cleverly cast a set of enhancement spells on himself before each class: Bear's Tenacity, Bull's Strength, and Cat's Grace. Bear's Tenacity provided him with endless stamina, Bull's Strength granted him powerful explosive force, and Cat's Grace made him as agile as a cat. The duration of these attribute enhancement spells was impressively long, easily lasting through 1 or 2 classes. The best part was that these spells were of Ethan's own creation, differing significantly from most known spells and transformations, making them virtually undetectable. With this 3-pronged approach, Ethan quickly became a broomstick-flying prodigy. However, during Miss Hooch's flying lesson for Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff, a significant issue arose in the lesson for Gryffindor and Slytherin, nearly leading to a brawl. That night, in a secluded corner of the library, Ethan encountered Harry again. To be precise, Harry and Ron sought him out. Ethan's daily routine was notably consistent, spending his time in the classroom, library, and dining hall. "Ethan, I knew we'd find you here," Harry greeted, as Ethan set aside crazy magic of strange wizards and looked up at a few old friends he had met before school started. "Hey, why do you always come looking for me? We're not in the same house, and we hardly see each other outside of a few classes. Our schedules always clash with those annoying Slytherins," Harry complained. "You're always in the library. Probably only that bossy Miss Know-It-All from Gryffindor runs into you often." "I've heard about your exploits today. In today's flying lesson, Harry did a brave thing by helping Longbottom retrieve the Remembrall from Malfoy," Ethan shared, recounting the rumors he had heard. Even within the library's quiet walls, he had overheard many young wizards discussing the event, much to Mrs. Pince's annoyance. "Yeah, you wouldn't believe how thrilling it was. Harry dived 50 feet to catch the Remembrall," Ron said excitedly, as if he had been the one to perform the feat. "I heard Neville was overjoyed when he got the Remembrall back. What had he forgotten?" Ethan asked, curious about the incident. He had forgotten to wear his Hogwarts magical robes. Ron replied, a hint of schadenfreude in his voice, though he quickly lowered it as Mrs. Pince, the librarian, shushed them with a warning wave of her feather duster. "Because of that, Malfoy challenged us to a wizard's duel," Harry whispered, looking at Ethan with a mix of hope and embarrassment. "Ethan, you know, I'm not very skilled with magic." Ethan's impressive performance in class had made a lasting impression, so Harry immediately thought to ask for his help. "Malfoy's second is Crabbe, and I'm Harry's, but he thinks we stand a better chance with you on our side," Ron added, though his eyes betrayed a hint of dissatisfaction. He had no issues with Ethan personally and acknowledged his academic excellence, but that didn't necessarily translate to combat prowess. Reflecting on the original story, Ethan asked, "Have you ever considered that Malfoy might be setting a trap?" But it's unthinkable for a wizard to back down from a duel once it's been agreed upon. How embarrassing that would be," Ron protested, his eagerness to teach Malfoy a lesson evident. Indeed, under normal circumstances, backing out of a duel was not an option. Ron is right under the circumstances. After all, Malfoy belongs to one of the ancient 28 sacred families. These pure-blood wizards take their heritage seriously, striving for their own glory. They wouldn't shy away from a duel, as it's a matter of pride for them. In the original book, Malfoy's ability to play tricks on Harry was primarily because Harry was only a first-year wizard, and such child's play wasn't taken seriously. A duel between families is a different matter. As adults, Malfoy would only bring shame upon his family. Thus, convincing them on this basis is futile. Ethan, will you agree? Harry looked at him expectantly. Okay, Harry. Ethan found himself too embarrassed to refuse. After all, they were friends even in the Muggle world. We are sure to win. Ron and Harry high-fived excitedly, but they forgot to lower their voices this time. No noise in the library. Get out, all of you. Mrs. Pince finally lost her patience and approached them, waving a feather duster. Well, Ethan, see you in the trophy room at 11:30 p.m. The two quickly left the library, realizing the situation was turning sour. Do you really want to duel Malfoy? Steve, who had been engrossed in his homework, suddenly looked up. Don't worry, it will be fine, Ethan said confidently. He had been studying the invisibility technique that day, a spell mentioned in the Crazy Magic of Weird Wizards. He had a sudden realization about the technique, which proved to be much more effective than the illusion spell in the world of Lipot and the invisibility spell in arcane magic. The latter only changes color, making the person or object blend in like a chameleon, whereas invisibility truly renders one invisible. Moreover, this spell is only level 2, making it easier to learn than illusion. After hearing Ethan's explanation, Steve nodded. Indeed, for young wizards of our age, a duel is merely an exchange of sparks. What could possibly go wrong? And if we're caught, it's just a deduction of points, which we can easily regain in a few days. At 11:30 p.m., well past curfew, Ethan crept out of bed, applied the invisibility technique on himself, and made his way to the trophy room on the 4th floor with ease. The room housed all the honors he had received in the past: prizes, statues, trophies, plates, shields, and medals, all displayed in crystal cases. There was also a list of all the head boys and student council presidents. Ethan was the first to arrive and, feeling bored, wandered among the display cabinets. When Harry and the others appeared, Ethan was admiring a Triwizard Tournament trophy. Mid-Autumn Festival and National Day Family Feedback. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Grab a deposit now. Event time, September 29th to October 6th. Chapter 24. Ethan? Ethan, are you there? Harry couldn't find Ethan, so he called out softly, I'm here. Ethan revealed himself from behind them, having used the invisibility technique. His sudden appearance nearly made them jump. Ethan, when did you get here? Ron patted his chest, his voice tinged with lingering fear. He had almost thought they were discovered by a professor. It's been about 10 minutes, right? Why are you so late? Weren't you looking forward to tonight's duel? Ethan glanced at the two figures behind them. One had thick, curly hair, and the other was notably stocky. It's all because of Hermione Granger. She insisted on following us. There was nothing we could do, Ron said, his voice filled with resentment when he mentioned her. What you did was against school rules. I almost told your brother. Hermione was also very angry, Ron continued, mimicking Hermione's tone. I really didn't expect you, Mr. Green, to be fooling around with them. But, Miss Granger, it seems you're actually enjoying this, Ethan pointed out, exposing Hermione's inner conflict without mercy. Aren't you also violating the school rules now? Professor McGonagall won't accept your excuses. That's because the fat lady who guards the door went to visit someone in another portrait. I couldn't go back. Mr. Longbottom can vouch for me, Hermione said, pulling Neville slightly aside, her voice tinged with grievance. Ethan gave Neville a look that conveyed, I'll take your word for it, which frustrated Hermione. Mr. Green, you're different from them. You're a top student, and the professors like you. You don't think this ridiculous duel is right, do you? Hermione tried to reason with Ethan, her voice suppressing the anger she felt. We should stop them together. You're right, I do find this duel ridiculous, Ethan agreed. But before Harry could object, he added, but since you've agreed to the duel, you should honor your promise. It's a matter of personal integrity and dignity. If you've read A Guide to Medieval Witchcraft, you'd know that this tradition, along with Muggle chivalry, has spread to this day and is now part of wizarding culture. As Muggle-born wizards, we should respect the customs of the wizarding world. Hermione fell silent after Ethan's explanation, but Ron looked proud and said to Harry, I've never seen her so compliant. Harry thought to himself, indeed, top students only listen to those who are better. He felt he had discovered a strategy for dealing with Hermione, seek Ethan's help. Turning to Harry, Ethan said, Don't think I'm supporting you. I still stand by my previous opinion. What time did you arrange to meet Malfoy? It's past midnight, and there's no sign of him. He's probably playing a trick on you. It's past midnight. Malfoy and his group should have arrived by now. Maybe they were caught by Filch? Harry guessed. Maybe it was Crabbe who got caught. Remember his size, Ron speculated. Despite being a pureblood, he doubted Malfoy would back out after initiating a duel. The trophy room, illuminated by moonlight, displayed various awards, medals, and statues, all shining with silver and gold. The five of them moved cautiously, their eyes fixed on the doors at both ends of the room. Harry readied his wand, anticipating Malfoy's sudden appearance for the duel. Minutes passed in silence. Maybe he didn't dare to come because he was scared, Ron whispered, growing impatient. Suddenly, a voice from the next room startled them. It wasn't Malfoy. Search everywhere, my dear, in whatever corner they may be hiding. The group prepared to leave quietly, but Neville, in his clumsiness, stumbled and grabbed Ron's waist, causing both to crash into a suit of armor. Bang! 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 Run! Harry shouted, and the five of them immediately sprinted away, the sound of clashing metal echoing through the castle, signaling their hasty retreat. Ethan and his friends raced through the corridors at full speed, weaving around doorposts and navigating through one corridor after another. Eventually, they arrived near the classroom where their charms class was held. Out of breath, Hermione managed to say, "I told you," clutching her chest. "I told you." "I think we've lost him," Harry panted, leaning against the cold wall and wiping the sweat from his forehead. "Mr. Green is right," Hermione exclaimed, turning to Harry. "Do you understand? Malfoy never planned to meet you there. Filch knew someone was going to the trophy room. Malfoy must have tipped him off. You shouldn't have gone to the duel." Harry had to concede to her point, but he wasn't in the mood to admit anything more to Miss Know-It-All. "Despicable Malfoy, I'm going to get back at him tomorrow," Ron fumed, his face flushed with anger. He had been the one to encourage Harry to accept the duel. It was humiliating to realize that Malfoy had no honor. Ethan placed a comforting hand on Ron's shoulder, saying, "Don't let it get to you. If you're angry, you're only letting him win. Tomorrow, we can spread the rumor that Malfoy is a coward. He's afraid of the Savior and didn't dare show up for the duel. He's disgraced Slytherin and the pure-blood families. I'm sure your twin brothers would be more than happy to help." "That's brilliant." Ron's spirits lifted instantly. "You're right. George and Fred will definitely help me make Malfoy the laughingstock." "That's the spirit," Ethan said with a sly grin. Though he didn't harbor the same disdain for Slytherin as the others, he couldn't resist the opportunity to give Malfoy a taste of his own medicine. "But for now, we need to be cautious. I have a feeling something's about to happen." No sooner had Ethan spoken than a clown-like figure appeared before them. With a broad face, a wide mouth, round eyes, and dressed in brightly colored clothes, complete with a tie, a hat, and slippers with long slits revealing his toes, it was Peeves, the notorious poltergeist of Hogwarts. Unlike the ghosts, Peeves was a unique magical creature known as a poltergeist, existing somewhere between illusion and reality, capable of physically interacting with the world around him. Ethan recalled reading about such beings in the library, noting that they were often found in places populated by teenagers and were not truly alive, thus not subject to the same rules as ghosts. A few freshmen daring to wander around in the middle of the night. "Tsk, tsk, tsk, naughty, naughty, you will be caught," Peeves cackled gleefully. Dealing with Peeves, who could pass through walls, was no easy task. Hermione, unsure of what to do, looked like she wanted to plead with Peeves, but Ethan had another idea. Remembering that Peeves was essentially a manifestation of chaotic spiritual energy, he realized that as his own psychic abilities developed, he might be able to affect Peeves. Concentrating, Ethan used his newly developed psychic stab ability, channeling his mental energy into a sharp needle that struck Peeves directly. Peeves let out a shrill scream, the likes of which the young wizards had never heard before. Ethan's quick thinking and unique approach to dealing with Peeves demonstrated his growing mastery of his psychic abilities, offering a new way to handle the challenges that lay ahead at Hogwarts. Amidst a miserable sound, a voice urged, "Everyone, go quickly." Ethan seized the opportunity and led them forward until they reached a closed door. The urgency in their escape was palpable, a stark contrast to the festive atmosphere of the Mid-Autumn Festival and National Day. The mention of a promotional event, offering to recharge 100 and receive 500 VIP coupons from September 29th to October 6th, seemed out of place in the tension of their situation. Chapter 25. A close encounter attracted by Peeves' scream, Filch's footsteps grew closer. "The door is locked." Ron whimpered in desperation, pushing against the door with all his might, hoping it would burst open. "Let me." Hermione, showing her decisive side, took out her wand, tapped the door lock, and whispered, "Alohomora." The lock clicked, and the door swung open. The young wizards rushed in, quickly closed the door behind them, and pressed their ears against it to listen to the sounds outside. "We should be safe now," Harry breathed a sigh of relief, sliding down the door to sit on the floor. "What's the matter, Neville?" Neville was frantically tugging at the sleeves of his robe. Turning around, he immediately felt as if something was strangling his throat, managing only a hoarse sound. They hadn't broken into just any place. They had entered the forbidden corridor on the 4th floor. Now, he understood why it was off limits. The others were equally distressed, except for Ethan, who looked intrigued, seemingly appreciating the rare creature before them. However, it was no ordinary creature, but a monstrous, large dog. This dog was so massive, it filled the space from ceiling to floor, with 3 heads, each pair of eyes spinning viciously, 3 noses twitching and trembling in their direction, and 3 drooling mouths, their saliva hanging like sticky ropes, emitting a suspicious yellow smoke from the yellowed teeth. Each time it moved, a crack sound echoed. Ethan knew this was Hagrid's 3-headed dog, Fluffy, but the beast before him was markedly different from the original. From its appearance, Ethan could smell a strong scent of sulfur, indicative of purgatory creatures. Moreover, the 3-headed dog was surrounded by a strong smell of fire. Ethan was certain that the Fluffy before them was not just any ordinary 3-headed dog, but a real creature from purgatory, the 3-headed dog of hell. However, in the original Harry Potter world, there was only an afterlife, no hell. This anomaly reminded Ethan of senior sister Cyrilla and the previous encounter with the water ghost brain. Clearly, this world diverged from the original work. Yet, the main storyline had not changed. The wooden board beneath the 3-headed dog was the gateway to the Philosopher's Stone. Ethan believed this was a test deliberately set by Dumbledore. If Dumbledore truly wanted to prevent Voldemort from obtaining the Philosopher's Stone, he could have simply contacted its real owner, Nicholas Flamel, to destroy it. Why go through the trouble of protecting it? Moreover, in the original plot, Dumbledore destroyed the Philosopher's Stone shortly after Voldemort's defeat and before Harry Potter awoke, indicating that Dumbledore and Nicholas Flamel had likely discussed this beforehand. Ethan had no intention of disrupting Dumbledore's plans. He lacked the strength to challenge them and saw no need to do so. Despite his long absence from Harry's side, their connection from the Muggle world made his participation tonight natural, without any need for undue suspicion or animosity. Disagreeing with Harry for the sake of it would only raise unnecessary suspicions. Letting things unfold naturally was the best course of action. Turning to the 4 terrified friends, Ethan sighed. Fluffy was securely chained. The length of the chain meant it posed no threat to them. However, it was understandable that the young wizards were frightened. Ethan waved his wand, casting Lumos Solem. Instantly, a bright light filled the room, providing a moment of relief and wonder in their dangerous adventure. A point of light ignited between Ethan's wand, swaying gracefully like a firefly before darting towards Lu Wei. The light captivated Lu Wei, who, with its 3 heads, fixated on the dancing luminescence, its limbs tensed in anticipation of capturing the elusive glow. In this moment, Lu Wei resembled nothing so much as a puppy chasing after a butterfly. "Get out while I have its attention," Ethan whispered urgently. Hermione was the first to react. He swiftly unlocked the door, allowing them to make their escape. Filch was nowhere to be seen, and upon reaching the top of the stairs, the group dispersed, each returning to their respective houses. As they were leaving, Hermione lingered, seizing Ethan's arm. "What's wrong, Miss Granger?" Ethan inquired, his voice heavy with drowsiness. "Just call me Hermione, Mr. Green," she said, a hint of embarrassment in her tone. quickly overshadowed by her thirst for knowledge. "Mr. Green, please, what kind of magic did you use back in the trophy room?" "At first, I thought it was the phantom body curse, but that's advanced magic, and the effect seemed different." Ethan nodded, confirming her suspicion. "Indeed, the illusion body curse is advanced magic. What I used was not the illusion body curse," he explained, a smirk playing on his lips. "My magic is more effective than the illusion curse." "Stronger than the phantom body curse? How is that possible?" Hermione gasped in disbelief. "Because I used my own magic, invisibility," Ethan revealed. "Invisibility? So this magic can—" Hermione trailed off, unable to hide her astonishment. "You guessed it. Invisibility can achieve true invisibility, akin to wearing an invisibility cloak," Ethan confirmed. "So, you've created a spell that not only surpasses the illusion curse, but can also replace the invisibility cloak?" Hermione was incredulous. The invisibility cloak, a coveted magical item made from the hair of an invisible beast, renders its wearer completely unseen. Unlike the illusion curse, it's unaffected by detection spells, making it highly sought after. However, its high cost and the fact that its magic fades over time make it a precious, consumable luxury. Harry Potter's cloak is an exception, being one of the Deathly Hallows with permanent invisibility and immunity to prophecy spells. Many wizards have attempted to replicate the cloak's effects through magic, all failing until now. Ethan's claim of inventing a superior spell was extraordinary, suggesting his magical prowess might surpass many historical geniuses. To prove his point, Ethan demonstrated invisibility right before Hermione's eyes. He vanished completely, only to reappear behind her, leaving her no choice but to believe. "If you try to reveal me, you'll find ordinary spells ineffective against invisibility," Ethan added, smiling. "After all, invisibility is derived from arcane magic, making it immune to most revealing spells in the wizarding world. Only arcane spells like the second-level Sea Invisibility can detect it." Advanced 6th level, True Knowledge. Seemingly eager to witness the other party's astonishment further, Ethan added, "If you've mastered the illusion curse, you'll find invisibility much easier to learn compared to the illusion curse." In the hierarchy of the 9-level magic system, the disguise charm falls between the 3rd and 4th level spells, whereas invisibility is categorized as a 2nd-level spell. Upon hearing this, Hermione could no longer contain herself. She stepped forward and grasped Ethan's hand. "Coach, I want to learn magic from you." "What?" The young witch's cheeks flushed with a mix of excitement and embarrassment as she clarified to the boy standing before her. "I mean, I want to learn magical spells from you." "Is that okay?" "Not just invisibility, but also the spell that makes lights dance and fly." "You're referring to dancing lights?" Ethan asked. "Yes, exactly. Please, could you teach me? Would that be possible?" Hermione looked at Ethan with hopeful eyes, her earlier feelings of rivalry now replaced with admiration and a bit of anxiety. Initially, she had viewed Ethan as a competitor during their first week of school. Now he had become the person she aspired to learn from. The only thing lingering in her heart was admiration mixed with anxiety, considering invisibility was a powerful spell not everyone would be willing to share. However, Ethan's warm smile quickly eased her worries. "Of course, I'm happy to see someone so eager to learn my magic. You know where to find me." Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Green," Hermione replied, barely able to contain her excitement. "Just call me Ethan," the boy said with a wave of his hand. "It's getting late. Remember, staying up too late can cause acne." "Yes, indeed," Hermione agreed. "Well then, Hermione, shall we meet tomorrow?" Ethan proposed. "See you tomorrow, Ethan." The girl's response was a joyful leap as she vanished from his sight with steps light as air. Mid-Autumn Festival and National Day Family Feedback. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Don't miss out on the deposit now. Event time September 29th to October 6th. Chapter 26. Ethan gains a little fangirl and returns to Ravenclaw Tower. Ethan trudged back to Ravenclaw Tower with heavy steps. Despite the late hour, he was confronted with the challenge of the magical door knocker. What can be owned but not shared? Exhausted as he was, the question didn't stump him. After a moment's thought, he answered, "Loneliness." "Makes sense," the door responded, swinging open to let him in. After a night spent outside encountering the three-headed hellhound, Ethan longed for the comfort of his soft bed in the dormitory more than ever. However, as he made his way inside, he halted abruptly. He felt an unmistakable sensation of being watched, yet a quick scan of the room revealed no one, not a soul or even a ghost was in sight. Still, Ethan trusted his intuition. His experiences in the stargazing class, especially after specializing in the School of Prophecy, had honed his ability to receive intuitive hints that often proved correct. This was a gift from the magic of prophecy. With his wand drawn, Ethan observed his surroundings. The magic candles in the Ravenclaw common room, kept lit all night for the students who enjoyed reading, illuminated the area clearly. He examined the windowsill, where the blue curtains fluttered in the breeze, the star-adorned ceiling and carpet, the bookshelves, seats, and fireplace, but found no trace of anyone. The night was serene, with only the occasional whisper of wind disturbing the silence. Despite the beauty of the tranquil night, Ethan couldn't shake off the eerie feeling of being observed. His attention eventually settled on the white marble bust of Rowena Ravenclaw. The statue, a representation of the beautiful yet stern witch, often intimidated younger wizards with its intense expression. However, Ethan appreciated her seriousness about knowledge. The craftsmanship was so meticulous that, from any angle, Rowena Ravenclaw's penetrating gaze seemed to follow you, reminiscent of the Mona Lisa. After circling the statue, Ethan concluded, "The one watching me is in this direction. I know you're hiding in the statue. Come out!" He aimed his wand at the founder's statue, but received no response. Lacking any magic specifically for reconnaissance, Ethan realized that his abilities as a scion could offer a solution. What better way to detect the invisible than with psionics? You attempt to use psychic tentacles to probe your surroundings. A flash of insight teaches you the technique of psychic detection. You've learned the second level, psychic sight. Your continuous training has pushed your spiritual power beyond its limits. Your psychic level increases by +1, and you've acquired psychic communication. Telekinesis. You can create a fine telekinetic field through mental contact, allowing you to feel your surroundings even in complete darkness or when vision is obstructed. Psychic communication enables psychic communication with non-hostile intelligent entities. Elated by the sudden surge in psychic power, Ethan immediately employed his newly acquired psychic sight. In that instant, his spirit seemed to detach from his body, expanding outward. No physical entity could hinder the spread of his spiritual power, bringing everything within its range under his control. As the telekinetic field extended, Ethan sensed a spirit body and an unknown magical force concealed within the Ravenclaw bust. "Ms. Grey?" Ethan inquired, utilizing his psychic communication. "Is that you, Ethan Green? What magic are you using to communicate with me?" Ms. Grey, already a ghost, was still taken aback by Ethan's hand. "That's the power of the mind, Miss Grey," Ethan explained. Then he inquired, "Now that I've discovered you, Miss Grey, can you tell me why you were hiding in the statue and spying on me?" "Sorry, I was just curious about you," the female ghost quickly floated out of the statue, having been caught. Miss Grey, the ghost of Ravenclaw, was tall and beautiful, inheriting her mother Ravenclaw's elegance. However, her serious demeanor and wisdom gave her a distinct temperament. Slightly arrogant, she rarely interacted with wizards from other houses and only occasionally answered questions from her fellow Ravenclaws. "Ethan Green, I know you. You're the most praised student in Ravenclaw in recent years, and many professors commend you. But I believe you're more talented than they realize," Miss Grey confessed. She clung to the statue, ready to hide again if necessary. "In this statue, I've witnessed you perform magic I've never seen before. You intrigue me." Ethan could understand her cautious attitude. Ms. Grey seemed to see him as a reminder of a past experience. Decades ago, she had a negative encounter that made her wary of talented students like Ethan. "I see, so you've been spying on me from the statue." Ethan's words made the female ghost blush with embarrassment, her ghostly form turning a shade grayer. "In fact, the magic I used was all my own creation. Everyone has their secrets. There's no rule against wizards inventing new magic, right?" Ethan mused. "But what I'm curious about is how you ended up inhabiting the statue of Lady Rowena Ravenclaw." His question struck a chord, and he could sense her panic. I just wanted to pay my respects to Lady Ravenclaw. I admire her very much." Miss Gray's response was less confident than before. No, your admiration for Miss Ravenclaw isn't the only reason you're in the statue, Ethan revealed. You're not the real Lady Grey. Your true identity is Helena Ravenclaw, Lady Ravenclaw's daughter. How did you know? Helena, formerly known as Miss Grey, asked in surprise. Ethan couldn't reveal his true source of knowledge, so he simply said, I guessed. Guessed? She echoed. I know Muggle history, Ethan explained. Miss Jane Grey is the grandniece of Henry VIII and the Queen of England, who only reigned for 13 days. Her death was on February 12, 1554. But according to Hogwarts, a history, you appeared in the castle much earlier than that era. You can't be the real Miss Grey. Considering your resemblance to Ms. Ravenclaw and your strange relationship with the Bloody Baron, I made a bold guess that you are the daughter of Ms. Ravenclaw. Helena was reminded of a boy from over 40 years ago who was equally intelligent and eloquent. Your analysis is very reasonable, she admitted. Rowena Ravenclaw is indeed my mother, and as her only descendant, it makes sense that I can inhabit her statue. However, Ethan immediately noticed a flaw in her admission, a deliberate oversight in his previous statement. He had suggested that being Ravenclaw's daughter allowed her to inhabit the statue, and Helena had agreed to dismiss him sooner. But Ethan knew that ghosts couldn't stay in solid objects for long. Unlike moving portraits at Hogwarts, ghosts could pass through walls but couldn't hide inside objects, even if it was a statue of their mother. Moaning Myrtle seemed to be an exception. The reason she can stay in the toilet is because of the pipes and the space inside them. Therefore, Helena is lying. But why? What is she hiding? Ethan's psychic reconnaissance revealed that the statue is not hollow, leading to the conclusion that if Helena is hiding in the statue, it must have been cast with a special magic. This piqued Ethan's interest. If Slytherin could leave a secret room in the castle, why couldn't Ravenclaw, who designed the entire castle, leave something behind as well? There are 4 chapters updated daily, and this is the 5th chapter today, making it an extra update. I still owe one more update. Would you prefer a faster pace, or is the current pace satisfactory? Feel free to vote. Chapter 27, Unveiling Ravenclaw's Mysteries. If Ethan wanted to uncover the secrets of Ravenclaw, Helena was both a significant barrier and an invaluable ally. Thus, Ethan chose to be forthright with his intentions. Miss Helena, please don't conceal it from me. I'm already aware of the secrets within this statue, he stated, causing the female ghost to panic. How do you know? No, you're mistaken. This is merely an ordinary statue. There are no secrets here. Seeing that Helena was not going to reveal anything without evidence, Ethan sighed, retrieved a magical spell, and gently pointed it at the statue, invoking identification. Unfortunately, due to the high level of magic concealed within the statue and Ethan's insufficient power, the identification technique failed. However, the attempt wasn't entirely futile. A faint blue magical aura emanated from the statue, confirming its magical nature. This is the magical response I detected, Ethan said calmly. Faced with undeniable evidence, Helena sighed and conceded, All right, you're correct. The magic binds me to this statue. But I wasn't lying. I can enter this statue because I am her daughter. Helena's revelation piqued Ethan's interest. Oh, how did this come about? Helena's voice was tinged with sorrow as she explained, Originally, this statue wasn't like this. It has been here for thousands of years, a testament to my longing for my mother. However, about 10 years ago, I began to faintly hear the statue calling to me. I sought answers from young wizards and other ghosts, but I was the only one who could hear the call and respond to it by entering the statue. Wait, Ethan interjected. Did you say this started 10 years ago? The same time frame as the appearance of the water ghost. Ethan sensed a connection. What happened 10 years ago? He pondered, storing this question in his mind. He then asked Helena, How do you feel inside the statue? I felt an intense longing, Helena replied, her eyes closed as if lost in memory. The emotion was so powerful, akin to a mother's yearning for her child. I believe this feeling emanates from my mother. Ethan realized then why Helena spent so much time within the statue. Even female ghosts crave love and warmth. Do you know the source of this power? Ethan inquired. I have no idea, Helena admitted, her gaze empty. It seemed to appear suddenly. As a ghost, my abilities are limited. I'm clueless. However, I wish to understand it all. Perhaps there's something my mother left for me here. Ethan made up his mind at that moment. He offered Helena a gentle smile and amplified his charming human's aura to its maximum. It seems you're in need of help. His voice was soft and empathetic. And as a Ravenclaw, I take pride in my house. If a descendant of the house's founder requires assistance, I'd be more than willing to help. Helena hesitated, then responded, Perhaps you're right. You are indeed an exemplary Ravenclaw, chosen according to my mother's criteria. But there was once a young man similar to you, equally distinguished and elegant. He too sought to persuade me, but ultimately he deceived me. Helena's expression turned angry, her translucent face contorting with emotion. Ethan knew she referred to Voldemort, who, during his school days, had tricked Helena to locate Rowena Ravenclaw's diadem and transform it into a Horcrux. However, Ethan feigned ignorance. So, what was his name? From which house was he? His question was laden with intrigue, highlighting the differences between Helena's past encounter and the present. Stirred by Ethan's words, Helena's expression softened as she glanced at the young man's appealing face. Ethan understood her fear and caution. After all, it was Voldemort, and the entire wizarding world dared not utter his name. He had once cursed his name so that if anyone spoke it aloud, he would be alerted, even though he had been gone for so long. His lingering influence still deeply affected the magical world, even as a ghost. But since Helena was willing to speak, it meant she was willing to trust him. Ethan continued to reassure her. But I've been honest with you, haven't I? I haven't deceived you, right? Unlike Tom Riddle, who relied on violence and deceit to achieve his goals, Ethan preferred to use strategy and win people's hearts through subtlety rather than lies. You're right, but no, you're different from him. Helena's expression softened, and her gaze at Ethan was no longer filled with resistance. Okay, you are right. I am willing to believe you. Ethan could sense her hope, as well as the pitiful uneasiness and prayers of a frightened creature. She hoped Ethan could truly help her, and prayed she would not be betrayed by her new friend again. Ethan nodded, responding to her uneasiness. Don't worry, Helena. I won't be like him. You are the student chosen by your mother, and I believe in you, Helena nodded. So, let me share my theory. I believe that something very important is needed to unlock the secret of the statue. It was my mother's treasure, and generations of students have pressured me to reveal its location. No one can resist its allure. She spoke with a melodious sadness. It was my mother's crown, containing all her wisdom and knowledge, but that man tricked me out of it. I see. I have a clue now, Ethan nodded. He realized that to uncover the secret, he needed to find Ravenclaw's crown. He knew exactly where it was, stored in the Room of Requirement at Hogwarts, accessible whenever he wished. However, the crown was now a Horcrux of Voldemort, cursed with dark magic. Destroying the soul within was not beyond Ethan's capabilities. Despite lacking the basilisk's fangs or Gryffindor's sword, he possessed the low-level god-slaying spell, Micrometeor. With its penetrating damage, he could gradually wear down even an artifact. Yet, to use the crown in solving the statue's mystery, its integrity needed to be preserved, which posed a challenge. Ethan didn't currently have the means for such a delicate task. However, he was optimistic. With soul-related research as a reference, understanding the method to deal with the soul wasn't impossible. To find such a book, he would need to access the restricted section of the library. With this in mind, Ethan formulated a plan. The first step is to find a way into the restricted section. Thank you for your advice. I have a clue now, but further research is needed. Please wait for me for a while, Ethan said to Helena. Of course, Mr. Green, Helena smiled, reassured by the prospect of hope. There is always enough time for ghosts. After reaching an agreement, it was time to part ways for the night. Before leaving, Helena suddenly cautioned, I remember you were exploring the power of the soul, but the human mind is the most fragile and uncontrollable realm. Rash exploration can easily lead to irreversible consequences. I think you should wait until you are older. Before trying this, thanks for your reminder, Ethan gratefully accepted her kindness. His exploration into psychic abilities was grounded in his own understanding and the profession itself. Without a professional framework, Ethan was cautious not to recklessly tamper with his own spirit. After bidding farewell to his new friend, Ethan returned to the dormitory and fell asleep. Chapter 28. The next morning, Ethan Green rose early as usual and made his way to the auditorium for breakfast on time. Despite staying up late the previous night, it didn't disrupt his normal routine. As the owls flew into the auditorium, delivering mail as they did every morning, everyone's attention was captured by a slender package carried by 6 long-eared owls. To everyone's surprise, the owls descended to the Gryffindor table, delivering the package right in front of Harry Potter. Ethan could see the joy on Harry's face as he received a broomstick, a Nimbus 2000, marking Harry Potter's first step into the world of Quidditch. However, Ethan's attention was soon diverted when he noticed he had received a letter himself. Hemmer, his usual breakfast companion, stopped by to ask for food and play, but it was the eagle owl that landed in front of Ethan that caught his interest. Clasped in the owl's paw was an unexpected note from Professor Flitwick, requesting Ethan's presence after dinner. Puzzled by what Professor Flitwick could possibly want with him, Ethan quickly finished his last fries and headed to Professor Flitwick's office after dinner. Professor Flitwick, with his characteristic smile, greeted Ethan warmly. "Mr. Green, I'm delighted you could make it. Your performance since the beginning of the school year has not gone unnoticed. It brings me great joy to see such a talented wizard in Ravenclaw," he began. "You've excelled in every subject, earning high praise even from Mrs. Pintz in the library. But I must emphasize that there's more to life at Hogwarts than just studying. While learning is important, diversifying your interests is crucial for a balanced life," Professor Flitwick advised earnestly. Ethan appreciated the professor's concern. "Thank you, Professor Flitwick. I'll keep that in mind. However, I find great enjoyment in reading. It's not just about delayed gratification for me. With my ability to quickly absorb and learn new information, studying provides immediate satisfaction and a sense of accomplishment," Ethan explained. Professor Flitwick looked at Ethan with increasing admiration. "Your dedication to your studies is commendable, especially at such a young age. You've outperformed many in just a week," he said, pausing for a moment before shifting the topic. "But have you considered exploring activities beyond academics? For instance, what are your thoughts on Quidditch?" Ethan was taken aback by the sudden mention of Quidditch, suspecting it might be related to Harry Potter's recent exception to the rule by Professor McGonagall. Nonetheless, he responded, "I must remind you, Professor, first years are typically not allowed to bring broomsticks or join the Quidditch team." "Yes, that's the rule," Professor Flitwick acknowledged with a sly smile. "However, Harry Potter of Gryffindor was recently made an exception, becoming the youngest seeker in a century, and you, Mr. Green, have shown equal prowess in flying lessons." Ethan's curiosity piqued when Professor Flitwick mentioned a recommendation from Miss Ray Allen. "Leanne?" Ethan thought, trying to place the name. "Cyrilla Fiona Ellen Rhiannon? Siri recommended me?" "Indeed, Miss Leanne is a chaser for the Ravenclaw team. Her arrival significantly boosted our performance. I value her opinions highly," Professor Flitwick continued, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "But even with Miss Leanne's contributions, Ravenclaw has struggled to clinch the Quidditch Championship trophy for some time. After observing your flying skills, Miss Leanne believes you are the final piece needed for the Ravenclaw Quidditch team, and I wholeheartedly agree." Ethan was specifically recruited to join the Ravenclaw Quidditch team. Despite his fondness for flying, Ethan, being from a Muggle background, had never really taken an interest in Quidditch. However, considering the recommendation came from Siri, he felt compelled to accept. He was curious about Cyrilla, a girl who seemed out of place in the Harry Potter universe, and wanted to understand her aunts. Since they were strangers, Ethan hadn't approached her directly. Joining the Quidditch team seemed like an excellent opportunity to get closer. Moreover, Quidditch was immensely popular among wizards, and becoming a Quidditch star could significantly boost one's influence, more so than academic achievements. The example of Crumb from Durmstrang, with his legion of admirers, was a testament to this. As Ethan delved deeper into arcane magic, he felt an urge to make his mark and introduce small changes to the magical world. Teaching Hermione magic was just the beginning. becoming a recognized academic authority, and joining the Quidditch team were steps towards achieving his broader goals. After careful consideration, Ethan enthusiastically agreed. "Of course, Professor Flitwick. I'd love to join the team." "Very good. Let's go. I believe they have training scheduled for this morning," Professor Flitwick said, leading Ethan out of the office. On their way, they encountered Ron Weasley in a heated argument with Draco Malfoy. "This isn't just any old broomstick. This is a Nimbus 2000. And you, Malfoy, bragging about your Comet 260 at home?" Ron's voice was filled with pride. "The Comet might be flashy, suitable for a gloryless coward like you, but it's not in the same league as the Nimbus," Malfoy retorted, his voice dripping with disdain. "Really, Weasley, spreading rumors? You're just jealous of our family's prestige. You're a disgrace to purebloods, a pauper who can't even afford a broomstick. I suppose you and your brothers will have to make do with a single branch each." Ethan found the exchange amusing and would have liked to listen longer, but Professor Flitwick intervened. "I hope we're not fighting, children." "Someone gave Potter a broomstick, Professor," Malfoy complained. "Yes, I'm aware of the special circumstances," Professor Flitwick replied, smiling at Harry. "Mr. Potter, which model did you receive?" "Nimbus 2000, sir," Harry answered, struggling to contain his laughter at Malfoy's shocked expression. "I have Malfoy to thank for it," he added, explaining how Malfoy's actions inadvertently led to him becoming a Gryffindor player. "Congratulations, Mr. Potter," Flitwick said, then turned to Ethan. "Mr. Green, you'll be receiving a similar gift soon." He didn't want Professor McGonagall to outdo him. Ethan was pleasantly surprised. "Thank you, Professor," he said, then addressed Malfoy. "It seems I have you to thank as well." With that, he followed Professor Flitwick, leaving a bewildered Malfoy behind. Mid-Autumn Festival and National Day Promotion. Recharge 100 and receive 500 VIP coupons. Don't miss out on this opportunity. Event duration, September 29th to October 6th. Chapter 29. A Surprising Encounter. When Ethan arrived at the stadium, he was not greeted by Roger Davis, the captain of the Ravenclaw Quidditch team, but by his recommender, Cyrilla Leanne. This tall, gray-haired girl stood out even among the vibrant Ravenclaw students. Her casual, pulled-back hair and the athletic attire she wore accentuated her heroic figure. Holding a broomstick, she resembled a graceful cheetah poised for action. It was clear she carried the legacy of Geralt's adopted daughter, the future Witcher, even as she embraced her life as a wizard. "Hey, Professor Flitwick, Mr. Ethan Green, over here!" Cyrilla called out, waving in the sunlight. "Now it's your turn to shine, Mr. Green," Professor Flitwick encouraged Ethan with a pat on the shoulder before heading back to the castle. Ethan quickly approached Cyrilla, who greeted him with a warm pat on the shoulder. "Hi, Mr. Green. We've met before, haven't we?" she said, referring to their first encounter at the start of the school year. Ethan, unembarrassed by his previous surprise at her appearance, replied, "Indeed, Senior Sister Cyrilla. Your unique beauty took me by surprise." "Please call me Cyrilla or Ciri, and I'll call you Ethan," she said, laughing at his direct compliment. "I thought you'd be more formidable." "That's because I hadn't cast an attribute enhancement spell yet," Ethan quipped, smiling. "It's a pleasure, Ciri." Their friendly exchange quickly bridged the gap between them. Cyrilla then coolly kicked the wooden box beside her, popping it open to reveal the Quidditch equipment inside. "Do you know about Quidditch, Mr. Green?" she inquired. "I'm not as knowledgeable as a fan would be," Ethan admitted with a wry smile. "I'm a Muggle-born, only introduced to magic this summer. I know the quaffle is the red ball, and chasers pass it to score through the opponent's hoops for 10 points each. The keeper guards their team's hoops." Cyrilla was impressed by Ethan's understanding of Quidditch. Despite his claim of inexperience, he detailed the rules, equipment uses, player roles, and even basic tactics with ease, attributing his knowledge to books. "I've heard Ravenclaw has a genius in its ranks, and now I see it's true," Cyrilla remarked. "You're well-versed enough to skip the theory lessons. Most of our team might not know as much about Quidditch as you do." "Let's proceed with the practical test," she continued. "Professor Flitwick plans to buy you a new broom, but until then, you can use mine." Handing her broom to Ethan, she added, "This is the Sweeping 7 Stars, a gift from Professor Flitwick when I joined the team. Take good care of it." Ethan grasped the significance of her words. Receiving a broom from Professor Flitwick was an exceptional gesture, highlighting his unique position as a Muggle-born with no prior exposure to the wizarding world. Ethan had no wizarding family to provide the funds for a broom. However, his Quidditch talent justified the expense. Harry Potter likely had similar reasons. This gift suggested that Ciri, too, faced similar circumstances upon her arrival at Hogwarts, marking her as an outsider to the Harry Potter world, much like Ethan. Acknowledging this, Ethan nodded, turned around, and under Ciri's curious gaze, waved his wand, casting a trio of spells on himself: Bear's Tenacity, Bull Power, and Cat's Elegance. Ciri then released a shiny black bludger, which had been struggling desperately in its box. Once freed, it aimed straight for Ethan's face. With the enhanced strength from Bull Power, boosting his strength from 7 to 12 points and surpassing that of an adult, Ethan swung a bat and knocked the bludger away. It whizzed towards the goalpost and passed through the hoop as if it were a cleverly thrown quaffle. "Well done, Ethan. You're stronger than I thought. I was wrong," Ciri began, but before she could finish, the relentless bludger targeted her head. Unfazed, Ciri rushed towards it, grabbed the bludger, and forced it back into the box, showcasing skills almost on par with Ethan's and set abilities. "You have the potential to be a beater," Ciri remarked, "but let's see how you fare in other positions." Next, Ciri had Ethan fly around the field twice, performing complex maneuvers with ease. Then came the chaser test, where Ethan was asked to execute a series of intricate passes and tactical moves, such as reverse passes and Porskoff's ploy, requiring not just physical fitness, but also mental coordination. Ethan's psychic abilities came into play here. Though he hadn't mastered the ability to detect thoughts, he could read simple emotions, allowing him to anticipate Ciri's passes and catches with remarkable precision. Their seamless cooperation on the Quidditch pitch made Ciri believe they were destined to play together. After the test, an excited Ciri grabbed Ethan's hand. "Come on, Ethan. How about you become a chaser with me? With your talent, you're suited for any position. But as a chaser, we could win the Quidditch Cup for Ravenclaw this year," she added, mentioning they had recruited another talented player, hinting at her suitability for the seeker position due to her cuteness, a decision influenced by Captain Roger Davis. However, Ethan knew that if Ciri truly wanted something, even Captain Davis would have to agree, given her reputation as the Sintra young lion. Ethan wasn't surprised by Ciri's enthusiasm. With his abilities, he could achieve a tacit understanding with anyone, but he chose to reserve this connection for Ciri. He understood that one of the pillars of life was to stand together in battle, believing that the strongest friendships were forged side by side in the heat of competition. Standing side by side on the court has a similar effect. When teammates share a tacit understanding, the strength of their friendship doubles. Ethan's relationship with Ciri had grown close enough to involve some origins, allowing him to inquire about Ciri's secrets. Given Ciri's appearance and potential, Ethan readily agreed to her joining the Ravenclaw Quidditch team as a chaser. In the time that followed, Ethan became increasingly busy. As the course load intensified, his schoolwork naturally piled up. Despite spending most of his spare time in the library, Ethan also had to attend Quidditch training 3 times a week and participate in one-on-one tutoring sessions with Hermione on weekends. Except for not finding an opportunity to enter the forbidden book area, his life was very fulfilling. Ciri's grandmother is Queen Calanthe of Sintra, who is nicknamed the Sintra Lioness. Having undergone a comprehensive palace education, Ciri can be considered well-prepared and knowledgeable. Chapter 30. Ethan, you fly really well. I think they should make you the Seeker. After a training match, the young wizards made their way back to the castle together. Anthony Goldstein, who had been spectating, expressed his indignation. "Have you noticed that the golden snitch is much faster than Chuzang? Is it just because she's beautiful?" Terry Boot chimed in from the other side. "Indeed, Zhang Chu is very beautiful, but how does she compare with senior sister Cyrilla?" Ethan asked, shrugging. "Of course, senior sister Cyrilla is even better. In terms of appearance, no one in Ravenclaw can compare to Cyrilla," Terry Boot didn't hesitate to affirm. "Yes, I think so too." Ethan folded his arms and said quietly, "So you see where I am and where Cyrilla is." You, like Cyrilla, are both chasers. Oh, I see! Terry Boot suddenly realized and looked at Ethan in surprise. The first to get the moon is near the water and the tower. It is indeed you, Ethan. Anthony patted Ethan heavily on the shoulder. Not only do you excel academically and in Quidditch, but you're also adept at charming the ladies. Being your roommate is really something, Steve said, his tone laced with humor. Ethan shook his head, choosing not to engage with these classmates who were preoccupied with such matters. However, after 2 months of practice, Ethan's flying skills and Quidditch prowess had significantly improved, and his on-field synergy with Cyrilla had become even more seamless. Those who had witnessed their training sessions felt confident that with their participation, Ravenclaw was sure to win this year's Quidditch Cup. During this time, Ethan and Cyrilla's relationship had also grown closer. If this trend continued, it might not be long before they could be open about their feelings for each other. Suddenly, Ethan seemed to remember something and asked, "By the way, is Halloween tomorrow?" Steve nodded slightly. "Yes, today is Halloween. I heard the school has planned a very lavish dinner." Terry Boot eagerly added, "I heard from a reliable source that Dumbledore has invited a famous skeleton dance troupe to perform this year." Halloween, Ethan nodded thoughtfully. Halloween is a traditional festival in the Western world, celebrated at night with children donning costumes and masks to collect candies from house to house. In the world of Harry Potter, Halloween is significant not just for the festivities, but because it often precedes notable events at Hogwarts. Ethan was particularly excited at the prospect. He had never encountered a troll before, a creature known for its immense strength, low intelligence, and high resistance to magic. Trolls are notoriously violent and pose a significant threat to wizards due to their magical resilience. But Ethan was curious and somewhat prepared. Since direct magic spells were ineffective against trolls, he pondered the use of indirect damage through elemental magic. This approach was not widely explored in the Harry Potter universe, with only basic spells like the fire-making charm and freezing curse being common. Over the past 2 months, after Professor Flitwick introduced the fire-making charm, Ethan quickly mastered the Burning Hand spell and began delving into elemental magic. He had made considerable progress, learning spells like the 2nd-level Scorching Ray, the 3rd-level Fireball, and had even begun experimenting with the Freezing Curse to develop new spells. Ethan Green, having mastered spells such as Freeze Ray, Ice Arrow, Frost Armor, and Frost Nova, also specialized in the Evocation School of Magic. His attribute panel now displayed the following. Name, Ethan Green, race human, level LV4, wizard LV2, Scion attributes, strength 8, constitution 8, agility 9, intelligence 16, perception 12, charm 14, specialty, heaven-defying comprehension, psionic power LV2, magic power LV4, magic resistance LV2, magic potion proficiency, transfiguration school specialization, prophecy school specialization, evocation, end school specialization spells, level 0, reading magic, descaling spell, whirlwind cleaning spell, levitation charm, dancing lights, scribe, flying charm, freeze ray. First level, hide thoughts, cutting charm, charm human, talk to animals, understand languages, scholar's touch, identify, mind stab, fire charm, freeze charm, burning hand, ice arrow. Second level, restoration charm, bear's tenacity, ox's strength, cat's grace, eagle's majesty, fox's cunning, owl's wisdom, invisibility, psychic detection, psychic communication, searing ray, frost armor. Third level, daylight, micrometeor, fireball, frost nova. Fourth level, dimensional anchor. Over the past 2 months, Ethan's physical attributes had increased slightly, though not reaching the human average of 10 points. They were still superior to those of his peers. This improvement was attributed to his body's adaptation to growth stage enhancements through repeated use of attribute-strengthening spells, allowing him to grow ahead of schedule. Ethan understood that this growth mirrored what he would naturally achieve as he aged, and any further enhancements would require permanent elixirs. Additionally, Ethan's intelligence attribute increased by 2 points as a result of advancing to level 4 in his wizard profession. He noted that every 4 levels of professional advancement would yield a 2-point increase in relevant attributes until reaching the legendary level 20. Ethan observed that wizardry in the Harry Potter universe combined elements of algebraists and warlocks, where spellcasting ability derived from one's bloodline, requiring no prior preparation, and mastery of spells through learning. This unique blend would undoubtedly evoke envy among spellcasters from other worlds. He noted that all new students at Hogwarts typically started as level 1 wizards, with their progression depending on individual talent and effort. While some might reach level 3 by their second year, others could still be at level 3 by their 5th year. The Ordinary Wizarding Level, OWL, exams in the 5th year and the nastily exhausting wizarding tests, NEWT, in the 7th year were more indicative of a wizard's professional level than their grade level. To pass the OWL, a wizard needed to be at least level 4, with exceptional candidates reaching level 6. Passing the NEWT required a minimum of level 5, with top performers reaching level 8. Ethan recognized that these benchmarks did not account for those who defied conventional standards, such as the trio from the original series, whose combat effectiveness far surpassed their academic achievements, or figures like Snape and Voldemort, who had achieved feats beyond the scope of ordinary wizarding levels. In their 5th year, one student discovered Horcruxes, while another invented a series of dark spells that surpassed the magical abilities of some professors. The Aurors at the Ministry of Magic typically range between levels 11 and 15. However, there is a significant disparity in the skill levels among the professors at Hogwarts. For instance, Professor Trelawney, who teaches divination, and Madame Hooch, the flying instructor, possess magical abilities that do not even reach level 10. On the other hand, masters like Professor McGonagall, Professor Flitwick, and Snape are well beyond level 15. Ethan's current abilities are difficult to quantify precisely. As for Dumbledore, there's no question about it. He is a legendary figure at level 20. Ethan surmised that in the current wizarding world, excluding the enigmatic East, only 3 individuals have achieved level 20: Grindelwald, Dumbledore, and Voldemort. In celebration of the Mid-Autumn Festival and National Day, we're offering a special promotion. Recharge 100 and receive 500 VIP points. Don't miss out on this opportunity to increase your deposit. The promotion runs from September 29th to October 6th. Chapter 31. The second method of advancement involves learning to develop more spells and tapping into one's own magical potential, akin to a mage's journey. After all, reality diverges from the simplicity of game mechanics, where defeating monsters directly correlates with leveling up. The so-called attribute panel Ethan possesses merely quantifies his current state in numerical terms. A mage's true power stems from the accumulation of knowledge and the exploration of the magical network. Consequently, the broader one's knowledge base, the more formidable they become. Learning new spells facilitates quicker advancement than perfecting a single spell, and inventing new spells accelerates progress even more than learning existing ones. In this aspect, Ethan holds a unique advantage. His knowledge and insights are not confined to the Harry Potter universe. This means he can create new spells with a bit of inspiration, even if such spells already exist elsewhere. To him, and to the Harry Potter world, these are his original creations. Ethan estimates that learning 20 more level 1 spells, creating 10 new level 1 spells, or devising 5 level 2 spells would elevate him to wizard level 5. Essentially, the more he learns, comprehends, and innovates, the quicker he strengthens. Before the Halloween dinner, Ethan attends a spell class focusing on the levitation spell, which he has already mastered. However, he remains open to gaining new insights. Remember the subtle wrist movement we've practiced, Professor Flitwick instructs, perched atop his usual stack of books. A wave and a flick, remember, a wave and a flick. He also emphasizes the importance of correct spell pronunciation, recounting the humorous mishap of Wizard Barufio, who mispronounced a spell and ended up with a bison standing on his chest. The classroom erupts into laughter, filled with a joyful atmosphere. Suddenly, amidst their laughter, a loud boom echoes through the classroom as a huge bison materializes, blocking the central aisle. The students, surprised yet curious, gather around to observe. "Who is responsible for this?" Professor Flitwick inquires, his tone more curious than angry. "It was me, Professor," Ethan admits from within the crowd. "I thought it was merely a jest, but it turns out." He gestures towards the bison. I didn't expect it to actually work. With a wave of his wand, Ethan dismisses the bison and uses a repair spell to tidy the disarrayed furniture. Beautifully executed, Professor Flitwick commends, acknowledging Ethan's accidental invention of what he dubs the Buffalo Curse. However, he quickly redirects the class's focus back to the levitation spell. Despite this, the impact of the Buffalo Curse lingers, with many students admiring Ethan's prowess and seeking an opportunity to learn from him. Unbeknownst to them, Ethan's magical repertoire extends beyond the Buffalo Curse. The moment the bison was summoned, Ethan experienced an epiphany. You have learned the Buffalo Summoning spell, demonstrating proficiency in arcane magic, grasping the core concept of summoning, and achieving an upgrade. Your Buffalo Summoning spell has evolved into Monster Summoning, advancing your conjuration school to a specialization level. Monster Summoning allows the summoning of monsters from different planes to aid in battle. Here, plane typically refers to realms like heaven or hell, not transcending the universe. The School of Conjuration focuses on summoning and materializing entities, with the Monster Summoning technique serving as a foundational spell. Although initially a level 1 spell, the Monster Summoning spell enables the caster to summon a variety of monsters, with the bison being just one example. As the caster's skills and knowledge expand, so too does the potential of their conjured allies. Ethan was quite pleased with himself. An accident had led him to embark on the path of conjuration magic, and he was finding it fascinating. The spell he had learned could summon creatures of various levels and types, from undead beings with Summon Undead to celestial entities with Celestial Covenant, and even dragons with Dragon Covenant. The possibilities seemed endless, and Ethan was eager to explore them all. The rest of the class proceeded without incident. Aside from Ethan, only Hermione managed to successfully cast the levitation spell, while Seamus from Gryffindor caused yet another explosion. Hermione ended up in tears after a conflict with Ron, leaving the classroom in distress. Ethan shook his head, pondering the fragile nature of fate and the importance of being mindful of others while practicing magic. As the spells class concluded, the young wizards hurried down to the dining hall, their appetites whetted by a day of learning and the enticing aroma of pumpkin that filled the corridors on this Halloween night. Upon entering the dining hall, they were greeted by a spectacle of Halloween decorations that lent the room an eerie yet dazzling atmosphere. Bats, conjured by magic, fluttered around the ceiling, occasionally colliding with the walls and vanishing. Pumpkins carved with grotesque faces were stacked against the walls, some transformed into floating lamps that hovered among the bats. The golden plates on the tables were suddenly laden with delicious food, reminiscent of the feast on the first day of school. "Looks like you're really hungry today, Ethan," Steve remarked, surprised at Ethan's voracious appetite. Unlike his usual careful and slow eating habits, Ethan was devouring his food with unusual gusto. Ethan, with his mouth full, responded, "Sometimes, I just feel like something's going to happen." He then continued to focus on the mutton pie in front of him. "You shouldn't eat so quickly, though," Steve advised, watching Ethan stuff another mouthful of salad into his mouth with a shake of his head, amused by his friend's exaggerated hunger. Soon, Ethan was full. He glanced over at the Gryffindor table, where Harry and Ron were enjoying their meal, but Hermione was nowhere to be seen. Professor Quirrell was also absent from the teacher's table. Ethan stood up and whispered to Steve, "I'm going to use the restroom." Steve was puzzled by Ethan's sudden need, wondering if he had digested his meal unusually quickly. Ethan paid no mind to Steve's confusion. After leaving his seat, he made his way toward the lower classrooms. Instead of heading straight down the stairs, Ethan concealed himself behind a statue and cast an invisibility spell on himself. He waited quietly until he saw Professor Quirinus Quirrell rushing upstairs, passing by without noticing Ethan's hidden presence. Once Professor Quirrell was out of sight, Ethan emerged from his hiding spot and descended the stairs, intent on finding the troll. Meanwhile, in the dining hall, Professor Quirrell made a dramatic entrance, his scarf askew and a look of terror on his face. The entire room watched as he approached Professor Dumbledore's table, leaned on it, and gasped out, "The troll, in the basement classroom, thought you should know." With that, He collapsed to the floor, unconscious. Update 5/4 today, plus update 2. Thank you for your votes yesterday. I initially owed just one update, but before I knew it, that number had increased to 3. However, this isn't a concern. The more you vote, the more updates I'll provide, and I stand by that promise. In celebration of the Mid-Autumn Festival and National Day, we're offering a special promotion for our readers. Recharge with 100 and receive 500 VIP points in return. Don't miss out on this opportunity to enhance your reading experience. Promotion period, September 29th to October 6th. Chapter 32. Upon hearing that a troll was lurking within Hogwarts, pandemonium erupted in the Great Hall. It took several of Dumbledore's wand-induced fireworks bursting overhead to restore order. Prefects, the Hogwarts headmaster commanded in a stern voice, lead your house students to the dormitories immediately. From the Ravenclaw table, the female prefect, Penelo Cravat, promptly stood up and announced, Ravenclaw students, follow me. Steve, not wanting to miss out, quickly grabbed a piece of pumpkin pie and fell into line. As the group was about to move, he suddenly remembered Ethan, who had gone to the bathroom. Scanning the room and not finding him, Steve urgently approached Penelo. Miss Cravat, Ethan went to the bathroom just now. He must not have heard the warning about the troll. Penelo, visibly alarmed by this news, quickly sought a professor for help. Meanwhile, Ethan had unwittingly ventured into the underground classroom. As he emerged from the corridor and turned a corner, a foul stench assaulted his nostrils, a blend of rotten socks and an uncleaned public restroom. Then, a low grunt and the sound of massive feet dragging along the ground reached his ears. Looking up, Ethan saw a towering monster slowly approaching. The creature, 12 feet tall with dull granite-gray skin, lumbered forward, its massive and clumsy body resembling a mound of mud. Its head, small like a cocoa bean, sat atop its body. Its short legs, thick as tree stumps, ended in flat, calloused feet. The repugnant odor emanating from its body was overwhelming, and in its hands it clutched a thick wooden club, dragging it along due to its long arms. The troll paused by a door, peering inside. Ethan noticed the sign on the door, the women's bathroom. As he suspected, Hermione was inside. Without hesitation, Ethan stepped forward, entering the bathroom before the troll. The creature, oblivious to the invisible wizard, let out a confused snort as Ethan passed. Inside, Ethan immediately found Hermione cowering in a corner. It was hard to blame her for her state. At this moment, she was not the future leader who would stand against Death Eaters, but an 11-year-old girl overwhelmed by fear. Ethan quickly covered her mouth and whispered in her ear, "It's me." The sound of his voice slightly calmed the nervous Hermione. Is it you? Ethan, you came to rescue me," she whispered back, her voice trembling. "It's me," Ethan reassured her, taking her hand. "How are you feeling? Can you stand?" "Yes, just a bit weak," Hermione replied, gripping Ethan's arm to pull herself up. "Can you cast a spell?" Ethan continued. "You learned invisibility last week. Now's the time to put it to practice. Give it a try." Hermione nodded, her hands trembling as she took out her wand and pointed it at herself. "Invisibility," she whispered. Magic swept over her, rendering her completely transparent in Ethan's eyes. However, before she could celebrate, the invisibility began to fade, starting with her feet and then the rest of her body. In seconds, Hermione was visible once again. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm too nervous and can't maintain the spell." "It's okay. Just remember to practice more when we get back," Ethan sighed, then pointed his wand at her. Invisibility. This time, Hermione became transparent without issue, and Ethan reappeared in his true form. The second level of invisibility had its limitations. It couldn't be maintained if the caster performed any spells or made significant movements during its effect. This drawback wasn't overcome until the fourth level of advanced invisibility. In the women's restroom, the continuous chanting alerted the troll to someone's presence, prompting it to lower its head and attempt entry. As the situation escalated, Hermione urgently addressed Ethan. "You've left the invisibility technique to me, but what will you do?" "Don't worry," Ethan replied calmly. "I have magic to protect myself, and the troll can't hurt me. Hide aside for now, and I'll seize the opportunity to escape during the fight with the troll." Ethan's intention was to distract the troll, giving Hermione a chance to escape. However, Hermione misunderstood his sacrifice as a call to action, refusing to leave him behind. "No, I won't leave you alone," she protested, tears in her eyes as she brandished her wand once more. "What are you doing?" "Don't waste your spells," Ethan said, a hint of helplessness in his voice. "Your magic can't harm it." To demonstrate, he cast Expelliarmus. A red light shot from his wand and struck the troll's shoulder, yet it had no effect. The troll, confused, turned its attention to Ethan, unharmed by the spell. Hermione, still misunderstanding the situation, resolved to find the professors for backup, urging Ethan to hold on until she returned. She then hid in a nearby compartment. The troll, realizing Ethan had attacked, raised its club and roared, prompting Ethan to cast Frost Armor. A chill enveloped him, forming an invisible layer of protection. Hermione felt the cold from her hiding spot, recognizing Ethan's use of his unique spells. The troll, slowed by the cold air emanating from Ethan's frost armor, advanced with difficulty. Seizing the opportunity, Ethan unleashed a series of freezing ray spells, targeting the troll's shoulder. The continuous hits gradually covered the shoulder in frost, eventually freezing it solid. As the troll charged, its movements became awkward due to the frozen shoulder, rendering it unable to complete its attack. To Hermione and Ethan, the troll's failed attempt to swing its club was almost comical, though Ethan remained composed throughout the encounter. He seized the opportunity and had already brewed a second spell, Ice Arrow, Ice Blade Technique. When casting Ice Arrow, Ethan expended his energy to reshape the magic. The originally sharp ice arrow transformed into a sharp ice blade, aimed at the troll's frozen shoulder and shot away. Although the troll had strong magic resistance, it was vulnerable to cold damage. Its rough and flexible skin became very fragile under the effect of the freeze ray. The ice blade struck, severing the troll's arm at the shoulder as cleanly as if it had been sliced by a sharp knife. However, due to the ice's influence, the troll couldn't even feel the pain. "Wow, Ethan, you are awesome," Hermione praised. Ethan was quite pleased with this outcome. It was the result he had envisioned for the battle. After losing its arms and weapons, the troll's combat effectiveness was immediately halved. With just a few minor spells, he could easily subdue the creature. Today's magic experiment was a success. Just as Hermione was excited and Ethan was about to press his advantage, the troll picked up its severed arm and placed the broken end against the wound on its shoulder. What happened next was unbelievable to both of them. As soon as the flesh and blood of the troll's wound made contact, it began to regenerate rapidly. The sight of the flesh sprouting and growing was horrifying. In less than 2 seconds, the troll's severed arm was fully restored. The unexpected turn of events left Ethan and Hermione in shock, realizing that the battle was far from over. Chapter 33. The Reattachment. No, the reattachment of this severed arm could hardly be considered flawless. In fact, it was quite the opposite. Ethan noticed that the reconnected arm was slightly crooked, the skin at the joint didn't align perfectly, and the arm was now longer than the other. This asymmetry was glaringly obvious, but what truly astounded him was the fact that, despite the crude reattachment, the giant monster could still use its arm with remarkable flexibility. This demonstrated that the creature relied solely on its extraordinary healing abilities. But how was this possible? Ethan had never heard of trolls in the Harry Potter universe possessing such resilience. His mind raced, sifting through a vast database of magical knowledge, but it was a memory from his previous life that offered a clue. Could it be that this troll has combined traits from trolls of other worlds? Suddenly, it all made sense. If characters like Ciri from the wizarding world could cross into this realm and water ghosts could emerge here, then why couldn't the trolls of this world merge with those from another? After all, they belong to the same species. Unlike the trolls of the Harry Potter world, trolls from realms such as World of Warcraft, D&D, and other parts of the wizarding world were renowned for their regenerative capabilities. They could heal from wounds at an astonishing rate, and if they lost limbs or even their heads, the severed parts would continue to live and move. Some trolls could even reattach their limbs without assistance. More astonishingly, if the limbs weren't placed back in their original positions, they would still seek out their original locations, acting as if they were alive. One might witness a hand crawling across a battlefield, a leg hopping around, or a head attempting to bite, until the troll managed to reattach them or grow new ones. Clearly, the giant monster before Ethan had absorbed the abilities of its counterparts from another world. If a standard troll's combat prowess was equivalent to a level 5-6 wizard, this creature, with both the magical resistance and regenerative abilities of a troll, was easily on par with a level 78 wizard. However, Ethan knew that the troll's super regenerative ability wasn't without its weaknesses. His knowledge from another world informed him that only acid and fire could halt a troll's regeneration. "Isn't it time to catch up?" Ethan said with a smirk. "Let me introduce you to the fireball technique I've just mastered." With a wave of his wand, he invoked a spell he had learned that day, Monster Summoning Technique. Instantly, a massive North American bison materialized in front of the troll. Though merely an ordinary beast, the bison could withstand a few hits from the troll, providing Ethan with a crucial distraction. As the troll grappled with the bison, unable to reach Ethan, Hermione's eyes sparkled with admiration. "Can the buffalo curse be used like this? That's incredible." But Ethan wasn't finished. As the troll struggled against the bison, he began to chant another spell. Scorching Ray. A beam of orange-red light, so intense it appeared white, shot from the tip of his wand, striking the giant monster directly. The part of the monster hit by the beam charred and carbonized instantly, emitting plumes of white smoke. The giant monster, already vulnerable to fire, roared in agony as the scorching heat inflicted severe pain. The high-temperature ray left a deep scar in the shape of the number 1 across the monster's chest. Overwhelmed by pain, the giant could no longer focus on the bison and instead rolled on the ground, trying to soothe its wound. Not the end of its pain. Scorching Ray. Another blazing light shot out. This time, Ethan aimed at the troll's newly attached arm. With careful control, the ray targeted the joint of the troll's shoulder, slowly passing through it. The joint, already fragile, couldn't withstand the intensity of the heat ray, which mimicked the effect of Superman's heat vision, burning the newly attached arm off once again. The troll, now reminiscent of the Condor hero with its right arm lost again, wailed in agony. It picked up its right arm with its remaining left hand, attempting to reattach it, but this time its regenerative power was suppressed by the fire element, rendering its efforts futile. Confused and enraged by its inability to heal, the troll tried repeatedly to no avail. Ethan then prepared his final spell, Fireball. Normally, he would avoid using such a destructive spell in a confined space, but given the troll's resilience, it was the only spell in his arsenal capable of delivering a decisive blow. After casting, Ethan positioned himself in front of Hermione, using frost armor to protect both himself and the young witch. Boom! The moment the fireball made contact with the troll, a violent explosion engulfed the restroom in flames. Despite being several meters away from the epicenter, the blast's aftermath nearly overwhelmed the frost armor. Turning around, Ethan saw the troll charred and lifeless on the ground. Had he not dismissed his summoned monster before casting the fireball, it too would have been caught in the blast. Phew, finally done, Ethan sighed, looking at the charred remains. The frost armor not only protected him, but also kept him cool, making it difficult to sweat despite the heat. Hermione, no longer invisible, stood beside Ethan, staring at the dead troll with a mix of fear and relief. Had Ethan not arrived in time, she dreaded to think what might have happened. Moments later, footsteps approached the restroom, followed by familiar voices calling out, "Hermione, are you there?" It was Harry and Ron, coming to check on Hermione. "I'm here," she responded, touched that her friends had remembered to come for her. Their loyalty was comforting, but Ethan's presence had provided her with an unparalleled sense of security. "Hermione, be careful, there's a troll nearby." "Ah! What's this?" Harry and Ron entered the restroom, startled not by the troll's corpse but by the scene before them. Before Ethan could explain, more footsteps were heard. Soon after, Professors Flitwick and McGonagall arrived, with Snape and a recently awakened Quirrell trailing behind. Quirrell glanced at the troll's charred body, let out a weak sob, and collapsed to the ground, while Snape examined the troll. Flitwick and McGonagall turned their attention to the 4 young wizards. "Ethan Green, what on earth were you students doing?" McGonagall demanded, her voice cold with anger. Consider yourselves lucky to be alive. Why didn't you heed the warning and stay in the dormitory? I heard no warning at all, Ethan replied calmly, unfazed by McGonagall's question. Harry and Ron, however, were visibly panicked. Ethan had already prepared his explanation before seeking out the troll. I just ate too fast. At the dinner, I felt a slight discomfort in my stomach and excused myself to the restroom, unaware of any impending danger. Subsequently, I found myself asking, I never expected to encounter a troll at Hogwarts, reputed to be the safest place in the world. What measures is the school taking? Snape eyed Ethan with suspicion, assessing the truthfulness of his statement. Flitwick, expressing concern, inquired, Ethan, you're not hurt, are you? After receiving a negative response, he addressed Professor McGonagall, clarifying Ethan's situation. You misunderstood, Minerva. Miss Cravat mentioned Ethan to me. He was indeed in the restroom during the party and missed the warning. It's understandable. Oh, if that's the case. I apologize, my dear. This was indeed an oversight on Hogwarts' part, Professor McGonagall admitted, her embarrassment evident. Her initial anger stemmed from concern for the students, prompting her to seek an explanation from the 3 Gryffindors. Ethan explained on behalf of Hermione, Miss Granger was upset and chose not to attend the Halloween dinner from the start. As for Harry and Ron, he glanced at them, and they quickly defended themselves. We were looking for Hermione. We wanted to warn her about the troll. In fact, we arrived just a bit before you, Professor. Understanding the situation, Professor McGonagall's demeanor softened. I see, she said, first addressing Ethan with an apologetic look. Mr. Green, you managed to defeat the troll on your own. For this bravery, I will award 20 points to Ravenclaw. It's rare for a first-year student to successfully confront an adult troll, showcasing your remarkable talent. Flitwick, examining the troll's charred remains, complimented, Though I'm unsure how you managed to defeat a troll with a fire spell, I must say well done. Turning to the other 3 young wizards, Professor McGonagall continued, Miss Granger, given your circumstances, I will not deduct points from Gryffindor. However, Mr. Potter and Mr. Weasley, I must deduct 5 points from Gryffindor each. In the future, should you find yourselves in a similar situation, seek out a professor instead of recklessly endangering your lives. If it weren't for Mr. Green's intervention. She left her sentence unfinished, not wanting to seem as though she was encouraging Ethan's actions. Now, I suggest you all return to your common rooms. The students are celebrating Halloween. On the way back, Ethan found himself entangled in a conversation with Harry and Ron, both of whom were astonished that a wizard their age could face a troll head-on. Hermione, on the other hand, wore a smile throughout the ordeal, showing no signs of her previous fear. The camaraderie among them made her feel a sense of friendship at Hogwarts for the first time, especially with Ethan. It was a day she realized she had truly made friends. Chapter 34. Ethan and the Aftermath of the Festival. Ethan and his friends returned to the lounge to enjoy the remainder of the festival, while the professors were still deep in discussion about the recent accident. A giant monster had accidentally escaped from Professor Quirrell's laboratory. Although a first-year student managed to handle it, Dumbledore could not overlook Quirrell's negligence in allowing something as dangerous as a troll to roam free in Hogwarts, even if it was intended as a teaching aid. In the principal's office, a visibly upset Snape was confronting Dumbledore. I don't understand why you allowed him to become the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. Snape expressed his resentment. The position he had long coveted was now held by someone he deemed unworthy. His frustration was immense, comparable only slightly to the pain he felt watching Lily marry James Potter. Dumbledore responded with a calm demeanor. I have my reasons, Severus. Snape, though furious, felt a sense of helplessness. His loyalty to Dumbledore was complex, rooted in his love for Lily. Despite Dumbledore's efforts to protect her, Lily's death had left Snape with deep-seated resentment. Yet for the sake of Lily's son, Harry Potter, he begrudgingly followed Dumbledore's directives. Snape, seeking to make his concerns heard, reported, I just inspected the 4th-floor corridor. The door was open, and the 3-headed dog attacked the intruder. Moreover, the troll's corpse bore unusual burn marks and wounds not typical of an ordinary fire-making curse. You should keep an eye on that new Ravenclaw student. Dumbledore merely nodded. I understand, Severus. We must place our trust in the young wizard. Dissatisfied with Dumbledore's nonchalance, Snape turned to leave. Before he could exit, Dumbledore softly requested, Please, keep a closer watch on Professor Quirrell. Snape, incensed by Dumbledore's apparent inaction, despite his suspicions, stormed out, slamming the door behind him. In the days that followed, Ethan found himself the center of attention at Hogwarts. Many were curious about how he had defeated the troll. Even his roommate, Steve, approached him with an exaggerated tale of the encounter. Hey, Ethan, I heard you battled a troll and the toilet was destroyed, with debris everywhere. Is that true? Ethan was taken aback by the embellished story, which seemed more fitting for a war zone than Hogwarts. It was only after speaking with Hermione that he learned Ron had been the source of the exaggerated account, seeking to captivate his audience in the lounge with a slightly embellished version of events. As November arrived, the weather turned bitterly cold. The surrounding mountains were blanketed in gray, ice, and snow, and the lake surface was as hard as tempered steel. Frost covered the ground each morning, and Hagrid could be seen on the Quidditch pitch, thawing his broomstick in preparation for the upcoming season. Quidditch training intensified under the direction of Ravenclaw captain Roger Davis, increasing from 3 to 5 times a week. The Hogwarts professors, meanwhile, continued their discussions, ensuring the safety and well-being of their students amidst the magical and sometimes dangerous world they inhabited. Despite the excitement of the Quidditch season, Ethan remained committed to his studies, making him busier than most students. Quidditch training was essential, but so was completing homework, reading in the library, and searching the room of requirement for valuable items to repair. His first holiday at Hogwarts was approaching, and he was determined to make the most of it. Harry Potter is the main seeker for the Gryffindor Quidditch team, and he's playing today, Roger Davis announced breathlessly one Saturday morning in the Ravenclaw common room. Although Ravenclaw was set to face Hufflepuff in the next day's game, their main competition for the Quidditch Cup traditionally came from Slytherin and Gryffindor, making Roger keenly interested in their performance. He's only a first-year, yet he's already a key player, someone remarked. Wasn't he a substitute before? Another asked. What does it matter? We have a first-year main player too, someone countered. Is it because of his fame? Absolutely not, Ethan interjected, eager to share his knowledge. Have you seen the prize showroom on the 4th floor? It houses trophies, shields, medals, and statues, including every Quidditch cup. Last time I was there, I noticed a name on one of the trophies, James Potter. James Potter? Sorella asked, surprised. Another Potter. How is he related to Harry? They're father and son, Ethan confirmed. Harry's father was a seeker who once helped Gryffindor win the Quidditch Cup. Ethan's revelation caused a stir. It wasn't unheard of for Quidditch talent to run in families, given the number of Quidditch dynasties in the wizarding world. As the room buzzed with excitement, Sorella, seeking to refocus the group, declared confidently, It's just a Potter. Are we supposed to be scared? No matter the opponent, victory will belong to Ravenclaw. Exactly. Against Hufflepuff tomorrow, victory is ours, Ethan agreed, bolstering the team's morale. The thought of Ethan and Sorella's formidable partnership eased their concerns about Harry. However, after witnessing the afternoon game, the Harry threat theory resurfaced. Slytherin's aggressive and foul play made it a tough match for Gryffindor, but Harry Potter ultimately clinched the game by catching the golden snitch, despite nearly losing control of his broom. The game ended amidst controversy, including suspicions of Snape attempting to sabotage Potter. Regardless, Harry Potter's skill was undeniable, leaving Ravenclaw to hope their new players could match up. The next morning dawned sunny and cold, with the scent of grilled sausages filling the air and anticipation for the Quidditch match running high. In response to readers' inquiries about why the protagonist is willing to share his magic, it's because the spells he shares are basic and pose no significant threat. Spells like invisibility, dancing lights, ice arrows, and fireball are fundamental in other worlds and have limited potential. Sharing them is inconsequential. However, teaching advanced spells like the prayer technique, Finger of Death, Meteor Burst, or Time Stop is out of the question. The novel's main plot revolves around building power, not solitary strength enhancement. As an orphan with no family, the protagonist aims to build power by attracting talented individuals, understanding that sharing knowledge can be a way to forge alliances and strengthen his position. For those who are unreliable and aspire to have a large family with many blessings, cooperation from the opposite sex is essential. It's not possible for the protagonist to undergo mitosis to achieve this. If the idea of falling in love is too much to bear and you're considering alternatives, you might as well view Hermione as a potential future subordinate. Chapter 35. As the clock struck 11, the Quidditch pitch was surrounded by a sea of people. It appeared as though every teacher and student had gathered in the stands, with many bringing binoculars to catch a clearer view of the game. Despite the stands being elevated, it was still a challenge to see the action clearly at times. Roger and the other players, including Ethan and Shirley, made their way to the locker room amidst the bustling crowd. Roger, brimming with enthusiasm, began his pre-match pep talk. Our moment of glory as Ravenclaw is upon us. We are the best Ravenclaw team ever. 2 years ago, after our star chaser, Miss Leanne, joined, our performance soared, surpassing Gryffindor and only second to Slytherin. And this year, we've been joined by a young, talented chaser, Ethan Green. Neither Slytherin nor Hufflepuff can match us now, he proclaimed. Wish us luck. Now tell me, what are we? Champions. The Ravenclaw Quidditch players responded in unison, their spirits lifted as they walked out of the locker room towards the cheering stadium. Leading the procession was not Roger, but Sorella, the team's biggest star. Ethan followed closely behind, undaunted and even a bit excited by the fanatical atmosphere, reminiscent of the popular football or basketball games from his previous life. Ethan quickly spotted the Ravenclaw section, where a huge banner proclaimed, "Ravenclaw must win." Surrounding this were smaller banners bearing the names of the 7 team members, all enchanted to float above the stands, fluttering in the wind. The eagle emblem on the blue banner seemed to soar majestically, as if it were a real eagle. The game's referee, Mrs. Hooch, stood at the center of the pitch, broomstick in hand. "I want everyone to compete fairly and honestly," she instructed as the players approached. Ethan mounted his Nimbus 2000, a gift from Professor Flitwick, who wanted to ensure his students had every advantage, especially against Gryffindor's Seeker. At the sound of Mrs. Hooch's silver whistle, 15 broomsticks ascended, marking the start of the game. "Good morning, everyone. I am Lee Jordan, your commentator for today's game," announced Lee Jordan, a Gryffindor student known for his rhythmic speech and dreadlocks, as he ignited the venue's atmosphere. "This game is between Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff," he began. The quaffle was immediately seized by Ravenclaw's chaser, Sorella Leanne, an exceptional chaser whose joining brought a significant shift in the team's dynamics. "I dare say she's the real captain of Ravenclaw, not Roger, and she's quite charming." "Jordan," a professor interjected. "Apologies, Professor," Lee quickly corrected himself. "She made a beautiful pass, and Ethan Green caught the ball effortlessly. Their understanding on the field is remarkable." Ethan Green, discovered by Sorella Leanne this year, is as notable as Harry Potter of Gryffindor for being the youngest Seeker in a century. "Ethan, however, shines as a chaser," Lee continued, not missing the chance to mention Gryffindor's Harry Potter. With a single maneuver, he dodged Zacharias' attempt to steal the ball, living up to Sorella's expectations. Despite his youth, his agility is impressive, Lee praised. He soared through the middle, leaving Zacharias behind with his surprising speed, thanks to the Nimbus 2000, just like Harry's. It seems Ravenclaw is determined not to be outdone. Harry watched as another Hufflepuff chaser, Cadwallader, suddenly stepped in front of Ethan. Faced with the imminent threat of losing the quaffle, Ethan effortlessly tossed it to the upper left, while simultaneously steering his broom to the lower right. This maneuver nearly baffled Cadwallader, who hesitated, unsure whether to block the player or the ball. However, Ethan skillfully maneuvered around him, and the quaffle landed in Sorella's hands on the upper right. "Nice one, too," Lee Jordan exclaimed, barely containing his excitement. Ethan cleverly outplayed Cadwallader. Sorella was perfectly positioned above, Their understanding is unparalleled. They didn't even need to look at each other. Cirilla continues her advance, charging into the scoring area without hesitation. Lee continued. Are we about to witness Cirilla's signature solo quick break? This move has made Ravenclaw a strong contender for the Quidditch Cup. Oh, goalkeeper Stebbings steps up, aiming to directly challenge Cirilla's break. Will he manage to stop her? Lee Jordan's passionate commentary had everyone's attention riveted on Hufflepuff's goal. Suddenly, Lee Jordan shouted, "Oh, no, she didn't go for the shot herself. Cirilla didn't make the break alone. At the last moment, she passed the ball. Everyone had forgotten she still had teammates. It was Ethan Green, who received the ball. He had been waiting there all along." Hufflepuff's defense was drawn to Cirilla, leaving Ethan facing an open goal. Ethan, riding his Nimbus 2000, hurled the quaffle towards the hoop. The ball went in. Exquisite coordination. The talented chaser Cirilla drew all the attention to herself and passed the ball to her teammate before making the break. The youngest chaser in a century, Ethan Green, lived up to the legacy of his predecessors and scored the first goal of the game. And this, less than a minute into the game. With Jordan's enthusiastic narration, the Ravenclaw stands erupted in cheers. Despite conceding an early goal, the Hufflepuff's spirits were dampened but not defeated. They quickly resumed play, passing the quaffle to chaser Zacharias, who seized the moment before Ethan could return to midfield, launching a swift attack. The three chasers formed a triangle, aggressively shielding the quaffle as they advanced towards Ravenclaw's goal. Captain Roger Davies quickly organized a defense, but the Eagles' aversion to physical confrontation meant Ravenclaw's playstyle was generally more finesse than force. Despite their technical prowess, they struggled with direct breaks and defense. This was where Cirilla's addition to the team made a significant difference. The future female seeker was an anomaly in Ravenclaw, possessing both finesse and strength, unafraid of close combat or physical confrontations. Even Marcus Flint of Slytherin had met his match in her. Cirilla's presence filled a crucial gap in Ravenclaw, transforming what were once merely aesthetic tactics into a formidable threat. Now, with Ethan's arrival, these freaks had become a duo. It's Cirilla again. Facing Hufflepuff's group breakthrough, it was Cirilla who stepped forward. Not just a powerful player on the offense, she also served as an iron wall for Ravenclaw. But could she stop the triangle attack of three by herself? Lee Jordan narrated, as tension gripped the Ravenclaw supporters. Wait, it's Ethan. Ethan returns at an incredible speed, executing a beautiful Parkin's pincer maneuver. He steals the quaffle from Chaser Summers. What an incredible understanding, Jordan sighed loudly. I must say it again. The synergy between Cirilla and Ethan is the most formidable I've ever seen among chasers. They don't even need to speak to anticipate each other's moves. Without needing words, just a glance was enough for them to synchronize their focus on the quaffle. Poor Summers, standing no chance against these two formidable chasers. Wait, what is he planning to do? Merlin's beard. Ethan didn't wait for his teammates and immediately initiated a fast break. Hufflepuff is too far behind. Where's their beater? Striker. Provide support. Indeed, the Hufflepuff beater was exerting every effort. As Ethan neared the scoring zone, a black bludger swiftly targeted his back. Yet, Ethan didn't even glance backward. It was as if he had eyes on the back of his head. Using psychic detection proved much simpler than relying on sight. He slightly shifted his position and dodged with ease, the sound of the massive iron ball whizzing by his ear. Unfortunately for Hufflepuff, their beater's attempt was in vain, and Ethan created an opportunity to challenge the keeper. What would he do? He charged forward, mirroring Cirilla's sigh. Nature move. Is he the second coming of Cirilla? Yes! The quaffle is through. He demonstrated that he is every bit as skilled as Cirilla, leaving the Hufflepuff keeper unable to stop him. On the Ravenclaw stands, the cheers erupted louder than before, less than a minute since the last uproar. Mid-Autumn Festival and National Day Family Affection feedback. Recharge 100 and receive 500 VIP coupons. Seize the opportunity now. Event duration, September 29th to October 6th. Chapter 36. The next game almost turned into a dance party between Ethan and Cirilla. They alternated attacks, either leveraging their unparalleled personal skills to break through directly, or using their extraordinary tacit understanding and refined skills to collaborate and defeat Hutch. Patch's chasers seemed almost trivial in their hands. Previously, Hufflepuff could have employed a multi-person defense to block Cyrilla, while the rest would engage Ravenclaw, known for their weaker physical combat, in close fights to stand a chance. This strategy became common among other teams when facing Ravenclaw after Cyrilla joined. However, this tactic was no longer effective. Ethan proved to be as formidable as Cyrilla. Whenever Hufflepuff's zone defense cornered one, the other seized the opportunity to penetrate the weakened defense and score relentlessly. Abandoning zone defense for man-marking was no solution either, as Ethan and Cyrilla could initiate their attacks simultaneously, their exceptional understanding amplifying their effectiveness. Consequently, Hufflepuff was dominated by Ravenclaw, unable to counter their assaults. As Jordan summarized, the addition of Ethan gives Ravenclaw 2 Cyrillas. To Hufflepuff, Ethan was an enhanced version of Cyrilla, combining speed, technique, and impact with an intuition and perception Cyrilla lacked. Bludgers were ineffective against him. Regardless of the batter's approach, be it a direct assault or a sneak attack, they couldn't touch him. Ethan's minimal movements were enough to dodge any bludger attack, leaving Hufflepuff in despair. They couldn't match his speed or skill, rendering them as ineffective as a hedgehog against him. The Hufflepuff keeper might block 1 shot, maybe 2, but not against a Ravenclaw that never misses, Jordan lamented. With 2 powerful players breaking through, Hufflepuff is at a loss. In just 10 minutes, Ravenclaw scored 90 points, nearly a goal every minute. Hufflepuff's only hope rested with their seeker, Cedric Diggory. If he could catch the golden snitch within 10 minutes, victory could still be theirs. Why within 10 minutes? Because any longer, and the score gap would exceed 150 points, making a comeback impossible even if the snitch practically flew into Cedric's hands. Hasn't the golden snitch been spotted yet? Jordan mused, scanning the field, wishing he could join the Seekers. But if they hadn't spotted it, how could he? When the score hit 120-20, the game took a surprising turn. Ethan, who had been coordinating attacks with Cyrilla, suddenly halted and flew towards the Seeker Zhang-Chu, leaving Cyrilla to fend off Hufflepuff alone. Yet, no Ravenclaw player seemed surprised by this move. Amidst the audience's confusion, the 2 young wizards exchanged whispers in midair. Then, Ethan gestured towards the Hufflepuff stands, and Zhang-Chu immediately dove in that direction, with Ethan close behind. Cedric, momentarily puzzled, quickly followed, sensing a lead. Though he couldn't pinpoint the snitch's location immediately, flying closer revealed the truth. He pursued his opponents and discovered the tiny, wing-flapping golden ball. Jordan's commentary unveiled the truth to the spectators. It's incredible. In this game, the first person to discover the golden snitch was not the Seekers from either team, but the Ravenclaw chasers, who delivered an astonishing performance. It was truly remarkable that Ethan Green, while consistently scoring, also took on the additional task of locating the snitch. He was the first to spot it. He watched the game unfold before him and explained excitedly, "Now the situation is clear. Ravenclaw has changed its tactics. The youngest chaser has essentially become a second seeker to assist the real seeker, Zhang-Chu, in catching the golden snitch. Ravenclaw's chasers and beaters have shifted to defense, employing delaying tactics. With the score advantage on their side, they aren't worried about losing the quaffle. As long as Ravenclaw catches the snitch first, they will win." As Hufflepuff's Seek heir, Cedric Diggory had been observing the boy in front of him overpower his teammates. The opponent was so formidable that he felt compelled to lead his team from the brink of defeat to victory. Now he experienced firsthand the challenge posed by this boy. Seeing that Ravenclaw had spotted the golden snitch before him, Diggory disregarded the risk and pushed his speed to the limit, attempting to overtake Zhang-Chu. However, Ethan, like an escort fighter plane beside a bomber, would confront Diggory head-on whenever he tried to get closer, as if determined to stop him at all costs. Diggory tried various maneuvers, including sudden accelerations, sharp turns, and even forced collisions. But no matter what he attempted, the young chaser accurately blocked his path every time. Diggory had thought he could break through using his physical advantage, but he was mistaken. The opponent was much stronger than he appeared. When they collided, Diggory felt as though he was not hitting a wizard, but a colossal monster. Eventually, Diggory could no longer hold back. Seeing Zhang Chu inches away from catching the golden snitch, he decided to ignore him and forced his way through. Ethan, of course, did not let him pass and blocked him directly. As the two struggled, Zhang Chu suddenly slowed down, and the three of them tangled together and rolled into the Hufflepuff banner. Realizing the situation was dire, Diggory reluctantly turned his broom and escaped smoothly. With Ethan's skills, he had a chance to break free. Unexpectedly, Zhang Chu was too weak to hold onto the broom with one hand and fell off as the banner wrapped around him. Seeing this, Ethan had no choice but to rush forward. At the same time, he urgently cast Frost Armor, hoping to use it as a buffer. At this critical moment, he suddenly realized the metamagic feat, Spell Instant, allowing him to cast spells instantly at the cost of extra mana. Additionally, he instinctively unleashed his spiritual power in a psychic explosion to prevent their fall. In an instant, an invisible ice armor formed around Ethan, protecting him and Zhang Chu in his arms, while an invisible telekinetic force exploded, significantly slowing their descent. The audience watched in shock as the two were entangled in the banner and fell from a height of over 10 meters. Professor Flitwick quickly drew his wand and cast a shock-absorbing spell, which combined with Ethan's telekinesis slowed their fall. The two landed on the grass with the banner and rolled around. Mrs. Hooch halted the game, and the Ravenclaw players flew down to help them escape from the tightly entangled banners. Even Diggory came over with a sense of guilt to check on them. Breaking free from the shackles of the banner, Ethan stood up amidst the players, and for a moment, the entire stadium seemed to freeze. Then suddenly, it burst back to life as deafening cheers filled the air. Zhang Chu, rising from Ethan's embrace, held the golden snitch aloft. It was this tiny object that had almost slipped from her grasp. Yet, the risk had paid off handsomely. Ravenclaw triumphed with an impressive score of 270-20. In the Hogwarts Quidditch Cup, it's not just about victories, but the total score from all matches. Such a significant lead put Ravenclaw far ahead of the competition. The atmosphere turned jubilant, with the Ravenclaw team basking in their joy. Roger, embracing Ethan and cheering, seemed unfazed by his minor role in the game. Zhang Chu, with the golden snitch in one hand, clung tightly to Ethan's wrist with the other. Ethan could only offer an awkward smile, caught in the midst of hugs and grips. Cirilla, though thrilled with the win, couldn't shake off a sense of discomfort, particularly at the sight of Zhang Chu holding on to Ethan's wrist, prompting an eye roll from her. Amidst laughter and tears, Ravenclaw's first Quidditch match drew to a close. Today's update 5-4. Additional update. Your incredible support, 3,500 spent, 58 monthly votes, and over 100 comments means I now owe 11 updates. So far, I've managed ed 3 additional updates. I promise to strive for more frequent updates in the future. Please don't think I'm slacking. The challenge is real. I've calculated that each chapter averages 2,700 words, nearly half a large chapter in length. I'm truly grateful for your support. If you can, please continue to vote with your flowers, monthly votes, and comments. Mid-Autumn Festival and National Day special offer. Recharge 100 and receive 500 VIP points. Don't miss out on this opportunity, valid from September 29th to October 6th. Chapter 37. Time Flies By. More than a month has passed since the exhilarating first round of Quidditch. It's now mid to late December, and Hogwarts is enveloped in winter's embrace, with several feet of snow blanketing everything. Ethan has made plans to visit Diagon Alley during the Christmas vacation to sell the items he's repaired recently and to search for the main ingredient for the permanent elixir, a task he is determined to accomplish. This quest has sparked his interest in the subject of potions. Lately, he's been experimenting with combining Muggle chemistry and magical potions, achieving significant breakthroughs. As Christmas approaches, most students are distracted from their studies, eagerly anticipating the holiday break. The lake has frozen solid, and despite the roaring fires in the common rooms and the Great Hall, the drafty corridors remain bitterly cold, with classroom windows rattling in the wind. The most dreaded aspect for students is that Professor Snape's classes are held in the underground classroom, where the chill of the basement intensifies the winter cold. During class, students' breaths turn into clouds of white mist, forcing them to huddle as close to the hot crucibles as possible. Ethan, due to his recent focus on potions, has been quite active in Snape's class. However, his enthusiasm does not earn him any favor from the dour professor. Despite being the first to complete the potion required for class, Snape criticizes him harshly. Being the first to finish does not equate to quality work, Mr. Green. You took too long to brew the uplifting potion. Had you taken any longer, others' wounds might have already healed. After tasting the potion with a grimace, Snape continues, "The medicine's odor is too potent, indicating your white liquid has excessive impurities. Perhaps you should consider mashing the juice before straining it through gauze. For now, adding some licorice to mask the taste might make it palatable, lest even trolls refuse it." Steve, witnessing Ethan's harsh critique, expresses his indignation. "Old Bat must have it out for you. He doesn't consider the impracticality of brewing potions while injured." "Please, refer to him as Professor Snape, Steve. Despite his harshness, he does impart knowledge not found in textbooks," Ethan responds calmly, revealing a deeper understanding. "But you were the first to finish, and your potion was exemplary, yet he didn't award Ravenclaw any points," Steve protests. "We're here to learn, Steve. Points are secondary," Ethan replies, focusing on his work. He meticulously chops fresh white leaves and strains the juice through gauze, resulting in a clearer liquid with fewer impurities and foam, and a less pungent odor. Ethan recalls the Half-Blood Prince's Potions textbook from the original Harry Potter series. The Half-Blood Prince, Snape's alter ego, filled his text with innovative potion-making techniques that significantly improved Harry's performance in class. This anecdote highlights Snape's mastery and innovation in potion-making from his student days. Despite Snape's abrasive teaching style, Ethan realizes that the professor is attempting to impart these valuable techniques to him, albeit in a manner laced with sarcasm. Snape's complex character, his dedication to Lily, his willingness to be misunderstood by Harry to protect him, mirrors his interactions with Ethan, blending genuine instruction with a seemingly harsh demeanor. Because he understood Snape, Ethan was able to handle the professor's harsh words with indifference. He recognized that Snape was stubborn and extreme, yet he appreciated good students. Despite Snape's apparent harshness towards Ethan, he subtly offered guidance. In the eyes of the Slytherins who truly knew Snape, it was clear that their headmaster treated this Ravenclaw student exceptionally well. Although Snape often criticized Ethan, he never unjustly penalized him or deducted points. This treatment was noticeably different from his interactions with Harry Potter, highlighting a form of preferentia, L treatment. Snape's favoritism towards Ethan meant that students like Harry, Ron, Neville, and even Seamus Finnegan found potions class even more challenging and disliked the repeated potion-making exercises. Aside from potions, Ethan excelled in his other classes as well. Not even halfway through the school year, it was widely believed that Ethan would secure the top spot in the final exams, with Hermione Granger, now his apprentice, expected to come in second. Despite her role as his apprentice, Hermione remained ambitious, striving to outperform Ethan academically. Their relationship had grown closer since the troll incident, with Hermione occasionally seeking Ethan's advice on various matters, including her treatment in Gryffindor and her frustrations with her male friends. Ethan felt a significant responsibility towards Hermione, acting as both a close male friend and a confidant. Before the Christmas banquet, Hermione stopped Ethan in the corridor. Ethan, over here!" she called out from beside the pine trees. Turning around, Ethan saw Hermione, Ron, Harry, and Hagrid engaged in a discussion under a holly tree. Regarding the development of romantic storylines, it's important to note that they will progress slowly, especially concerning Hermione, who is only 11 years old. The author reflects on previous experiences, emphasizing a cautious approach to developing relationships in this story. The narrative reassures readers that the story will remain appropriate for the characters' ages, hinting at future developments without rushing into mature themes. The author also mentions a promotional event, encouraging reader engagement with the story through a special offer. Chapter 6. Ethan Wood woke up to the sound of birds chirping outside his window, a gentle reminder that a new day had begun at Hogwarts. He stretched lazily, still half entangled in his dreams, before the reality of his magical world settled back around him. Today was not just any ordinary day. It was the day of the Quidditch match between Gryffindor and Slytherin, a much-anticipated event that had the whole school buzzing with excitement. As he got dressed, Ethan couldn't help but feel a surge of nervous energy. He was, after all, the keeper for the Gryffindor team, and today's match was crucial. A win against Slytherin would not only secure Gryffindor's lead in the House Cup, but also serve as a personal victory for Ethan, who had always felt a fierce rivalry with the Slytherin team. Making his way to the Great Hall for breakfast, Ethan was greeted by the sight of the Gryffindor table decked out in scarlet and gold. His teammates were already there, discussing strategies and bolstering each other's spirits. Ethan joined them, feeling a sense of camaraderie and determination. They were not just a team, they were a family, united in their quest for victory. The morning passed in a blur of anticipation. By the time the match was about to start, the entire school had gathered around the Quidditch pitch, the air electric with excitement. Ethan, now in his Quidditch robes, took a deep breath as he walked onto the field with his team. The roar of the crowd was deafening, a sea of faces, some hopeful, some skeptical, all waiting to see the outcome of the game. As the match began, Ethan found himself fully immersed in the game, his focus narrowing to the Quaffle, the Bludgers, and the Snitch. The Slytherin team was formidable, their chasers skilled and their beaters relentless. Ethan worked tirelessly, guarding the 3-goal hoops with a determination that bordered on obsession. Every save he made was met with cheers from the Gryffindor supporters, fueling his resolve even further. The game was intense, with both teams scoring points and the lead changing hands multiple times. Ethan could feel the pressure mounting as the match drew to a close, the score almost even. It was then that the Snitch finally made its appearance, a glint of gold against the cloudy sky. Both seekers launched into a frenzied chase, their brooms darting and weaving with incredible speed. In the end, it was the Gryffindor seeker who caught the Snitch, securing a narrow victory for Gryffindor. The crowd erupted into cheers, and Ethan felt a wave of relief and exhilaration wash over him. They had done it. They had beaten Slytherin. As he landed, Ethan was immediately engulfed by his teammates, their faces alight with joy and pride. They had worked hard for this moment, and the victory was as much a testament to their teamwork as it was to their individual skills. That night, the Gryffindor common room was alive with celebration. Ethan, surrounded by his friends and fellow Gryffindors, felt a deep sense of belonging. He had not just played a game, he had contributed to something greater, a legacy of courage, determination, and unity. As the night wore on and the celebrations continued, Ethan couldn't help but feel grateful for his time at Hogwarts. It was a place of magic, yes, but also of friendship, learning, and growth. He knew that no matter where life took him, the memories of days like today would stay with him forever, a reminder of the magic that exists not just in spells and potions, but in the human spirit. Chapter 38, A Misunderstanding and a Missed Opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone. What are you doing here? Ethan walked up and waved to them. Upon seeing another arrival, Hagrid's reaction was not one of happiness, but rather anger. Hermione opened her mouth, intending to speak, but Ron held her back. "We promised Hagrid, Hermione," Ron said with conviction. "We shouldn't tell more people about this." "But that's Ethan Green," Hermione responded, looking perplexed. "Isn't he our friend?" Harry felt very embarrassed witnessing the attitudes of his two friends. The secret they shared with Hagrid was not his to disclose without their consent. He pondered whether he should inform Ethan about the matter. Observing their mysterious demeanor, Ethan quickly surmised it was related to Nicholas Flamel and his little invention. However, their reluctance to share irked him. "Well, I was more than willing to lend my knowledge to help you, but since you're not inclined to share, I'll just wish you a happy holiday in advance," he said, turning on his heel and heading straight for the Ravenclaw Tower. "How could you treat him like this?" Hermione, seeing her friend walk away, grew angry. "Ethan is recognized as the top student in our year and a frequent visitor to the library. It's likely he has read most of the books there, perhaps even one about Nicolas Flamel. He has been nothing but helpful since the start of the school year. Why must you keep this from him? Ron, chastised by Hermione, found himself at a loss for words. Harry, too, felt annoyed and frustrated. He realized he should have confided in Ethan sooner, but hesitated due to Ron's stance. Ron always believed that the mystery of the corridor and Nicolas Flamel should be their adventure alone. He feared that sharing it with Ethan might lead to Ethan solving the puzzle by himself, leaving them out of the excitement. "No, I have to find him," Hermione declared, biting her lip. Without waiting for a response from Harry and Ron, she dashed off in the direction Ethan had gone. However, she was ultimately stopped by the riddle of the Eagle Knocker outside the Ravenclaw common room. Indeed, the rumors about the Eagle Knocker's challenge were true. For a millennium, no one outside of Ravenclaw had gained entry to their common room. This underscored Hermione's dual qualifications for both Gryffindor and Ravenclaw, though the Sorting Hat had placed her in Gryffindor. While Hermione's intelligence, memory, logical thinking, and rationality were commendable, she lacked the creative spark that was a hallmark of true Ravenclaw spirit. In the entire Harry Potter saga, Luna Lovegood epitomized the essence of Ravenclaw. Despite being perceived as eccentric by others, Luna's unique perspective often led to moments of brilliance. As the saying goes, genius is 99% hard work and 1% inspiration. However, it's the 1% of inspiration that's crucial. Frustrated at not being able to enter the Ravenclaw common room, Hermione considered waiting for Ethan at the library the next day. Unfortunately, Ethan did not show up at the library or even the Great Hall. After packing his gifts, he spent some time in the Room of Requirement before boarding the train back to London, leaving Hermione's plan unfulfilled. Upon arriving at the station, Ethan skillfully navigated his way to the leaky cauldron. He found himself wishing for the ability to apparate, lamenting the irony of a wizard having to mingle with muggles on a bus. It was an unusual feeling, almost surreal. Ethan pushed open the door of the bar, which was shrouded in its customary darkness. "Good morning, old Tom. I'm back again," he announced, making his way straight to the counter, where Tom Abbott was polishing a glass. "Ah, Ethan, it's your boy who's back." Old Tom expressed his surprise upon seeing him. He was aware that today was a holiday at Hogwarts, but Ethan's presence was unexpected. "What's the matter? Have you developed a fondness for living in small spaces?" Tom joked. Ethan shook his head, his smile tinged with arrogance, as he handed over 9 galleons. "No, I'd like a room this time. I have money now, and I plan to stay for a while." "I must say, I'm quite impressed. It's only been a few months," Tom remarked, giving Ethan a once-over. Through his correspondence with Hannah, Tom had kept up with Ethan's achievements at Hogwarts. The boy had quickly established himself as a prodigy upon his arrival at the school. Given his intellect, his transformation over the past few months was not entirely surprising. "Well, this time, old Tom will take care of you," Tom said as he retrieved a key from the drawer, placed it in Ethan's hand, and returned 2 of the 9 galleons. "A week's lodging, with a discount for our long-standing friendship." Ethan accepted the key and made his way to the 2nd floor, locating room number 9 by the numbers on the doors. Upon entering, he was greeted by a cozy bed, several pieces of polished oak furniture, and a welcoming fire crackling in the fireplace. After setting down his belongings and placing Hemmer's cage atop the wardrobe, Ethan grabbed a box and headed downstairs. In the backyard of the leaky cauldron, he took out his wand and tapped the bricks on the wall. With a few knocks, Diagon Alley was revealed. Despite it being Christmas, the alley was bustling with activity. Decorations specific to the holiday adorned the area, bells jingled merrily, and merchants promoted their Christmas-themed products. The sight puzzled Ethan. The wizards around him didn't seem to adhere to any particular religion, yet here they were, celebrating Christmas with enthusiasm. He didn't linger on the thought, knowing Diagon Alley wouldn't provide the answers he sought. Ethan, carrying his suitcase, made his way to the junk shop. This establishment, filled with worn wands, unstable copper scales, and old cloaks marked with potion stains, also sold secondhand magic items and old books. It was here that Ethan had previously acquired much of his equipment, but today he was here to make a profit. "Strachey, come out and greet your customer," Ethan called as he approached the shop's entrance. "I'm coming!" A response came quickly, and soon after, a skinny old man emerged from the junk shop, a cigarette tucked under his arm. Abraham Strachey, a Jew who appeared quite old but moved with surprising agility, was rumored to have been a vampire hunter in his youth. With the strict enforcement of the secrecy law, vampires had since retreated under the watchful eye of wizards, rendering Strachey's former profession obsolete. Over the past 2 months, due to financial constraints, Ethan had grown quite familiar with Strachey. The old man preferred solitude, often staying inside the shop to smoke, unconcerned about the security of his outdoor goods. Upon seeing Ethan, Strachey offered a grim smile. "Ah, it's you again, green boy. Are you here to buy some second-hand goods?" "No, quite the opposite," Ethan replied, pushing the box he carried forward. "I'm here to sell something this time." The narrative then shifts to a promotional message unrelated to the story's plot, mentioning a Mid-Autumn Festival and National Day family feedback offer, which seems out of place in the context of the story and has been omitted for coherence. Chapter 39. Sell Things. Upon hearing Ethan's proposition, the old man's face lit up with interest. "Aren't you a Muggle born? Where did you get these things to sell? There better not be any Muggle items among them. I won't accept those." "Don't worry about who I am," Ethan replied with a nonchalant pat on his chest. "I'm also a regular here. I'm familiar with your rules. Everything I have is from the magical world. As for where it comes from, we both know the rules. You don't need to ask," Ethan added. "I know, I don't need to know the origins," Strachey muttered, waving his hand dismissively while holding a cigarette. "If you won't tell me, it's fine. I can see for myself." He moved forward to open the box, but paused, noticing its quality. "Oh, I didn't realize before, but this box itself is quite the find." The old man examined the box, tracing the lines on it with his fingers. "This style, this craftsmanship, the aged leather, these marks of time. Wait, these marks were made by you today, weren't they? To think you'd treat a handmade leather suitcase from the Victorian era so carelessly." Midway through his examination, Strachey's admiration turned to irritation upon realizing Ethan's mishandling of the antique. He glared at the young man. However, Ethan remained unfazed and casually suggested, "If you value the antique so much, you should buy it quickly to prevent it from being mishandled by someone ignorant like me." "Of course, I'll buy it," the old man snorted. "But first, I want to see what good stuff you've packed inside such a valuable box." With that, the old man carefully unfastened the buckle and lifted the lid. Inside, there was a collection of old books, neatly arranged. The covers were made of cow and sheep leather, the pages bound with glue and thread, and the paper was aged, featuring both classic printed Chinese characters and handwritten notes. Strachey was surprised to find that most of these books were over 100 years old. Toadstool stories, "Oops, my feet are deformed," "Why didn't I die when the fortune teller howled?" The Magic of Chadwick, Volumes 1 to 7, Beginner's Guide to Transfiguration, Jiggly Boakley and Hawksbox, Hogwarts, A School History. Many were Hogwarts textbooks from a century ago, such as The Beginner's Guide to Transfiguration and Hogwarts, A School History, featuring revisions and student notes from that era. Ethan had carefully selected these books, including the Victorian chest, from the Room of Requirement using the appraisal technique. The chest was chosen for its convenience in transporting items. Ethan believed that selling books was the safest and most profitable approach. Considering the vast array of discarded items in the Room of Requirement, Ethan aimed to transport the most valuable goods using the least amount of space and weight without drawing undue attention. Magic items, naturally more valuable than ordinary items, require expertise in magic patterns and alchemy for repairs, skills Ethan currently lacked. Thus, he opted for valuable non-magical items, ruling out bulky and hard-to-sell items like furniture and containers. While jewelry and luxury goods were among the best sellers, they were rare in the Room of Requirement and difficult to sell without raising suspicions of theft. Antique books, however, presented a different opportunity. They were plentiful, not typically stolen, and easy to sell. In the world of Harry Potter, books hold significant value, making them an ideal choice for Ethan's venture. Books are not only cost-effective compared to furniture, but Ethan also possesses a vast database and copy skills, allowing him to easily repair books with missing pages. At the entrance of the junk shop, Strachey meticulously read through the old books multiple times, from beginning to end, and then from end to beginning. Ethan grew slightly impatient until Strachey finally looked up at him with admiration. "Alas, I didn't see it coming. Your repair technique is really good," Strachey paused before continuing. "We are all acquaintances here, so let me be straightforward. Your books have been restored very well, but most of them are old textbooks, which limits the market. Therefore, I can only offer you 8 galleons for a book and 50 galleons for the box. What do you think?" Upon hearing this price, Ethan thought it over. This price was comparable to that of new books. For instance, a 5th-grade potions textbook costs 9 galleons. Selling these books as used ones would fetch a high price, but considering them as antiques would make the price seem low. However, given that these books were sold in batches and finding buyers could be challenging, not to mention their dubious origins, a slightly lower price seemed reasonable. After some thought, Ethan counteroffered, "How about this? There are a total of 67 books here. Let's make it 10 galleons each. Including the box, that would be 700 galleons. A copy for 10 galleons? Are you trying to rob me?" Strachey retorted angrily. "You're the one trying to steal them by offering only 8 galleons. Ethan shot back. After a brief standoff, Ethan proposed, "Think about it, Mr. Abraham. If we close this deal, I'll return for future business." "Future business?" Strachey's interest was piqued, and after a moment's consideration, he agreed. "Okay, deal. You've got the better of me this time." "Agreed," Ethan said, taking the dragon skin bag containing 700 galleons and turning to leave. Now that the deal was concluded, he didn't mind giving Strachey some advantage. "See you next time, Strachey. Merry Christmas." "Merry Christmas, Grim," Strachey called out as Ethan left the junk shop, a satisfied smile spreading across his face. Money was crucial, both in the Muggle world and the Wizarding world, and Ethan was determined not to endure another financially tight summer. Having funds was essential for both living and researching magic. With the money, Ethan first upgraded his entire outfit, including his wizard's robe, crucible, and experimental equipment. He even bought a new cage and a pack of delicious rat jerky for Helmer, his Scottish round-faced fat chicken. As Christmas approached, and with newfound wealth, Ethan knew that Helmer, who had been idle for half the semester, would have to start working hard again. Ethan spent the next while wandering around Diagon Alley, gathering information on key ingredients for an elixir. He sought the blood of a ream cow, ocelot claw powder, tail-tip hair of a 9-tailed fox, griffin's beak powder, bear paws, and owl beast head feathers. Eventually, several old acquaintances, including Miss Hayden, the clerk at the magical creatures shop, and the shopkeepers at Slugjig's pharmacy, provided him with valuable information. Miss Hayden's store, being the largest magical animal store in Diagon Alley, had connections with poachers. She revealed that several groups in the East were attempting to capture mystical creatures like the 9-tailed fox, claiming they had reliable information. However, Hayden was skeptical about their chances of success. Ethan, recognizing the unique abilities of the 9-tailed fox, which can consume its tail to cast mysterious spells and escape desperate situations, saw an opportunity. The tail, once sacrificed, would regrow over decades. Knowing that poachers could force the fox into such a state, making it possible to obtain some tail hair, Ethan approached Miss Hayden with a request for 50 galleons, urging her to stay informed on this matter. Regarding the procurement of Ram cattle blood, Ethan learned from the shopkeepers of Slugjig's pharmacy that despite its scarce annual output, they had reliable sources. Given their connections and the pharmacy's reputation, Ethan felt confident leaving 100 galleons as a deposit, anticipating the acquisition of ram cattle blood during the summer vacation. This news delighted Ethan, as he had successfully secured 2 rare materials in one effort. However, the quest for the remaining 4 ingredients proved more challenging. The head feathers of the owl beast, a creature not native to the Hall Uri Potter universe, were immediately ruled out by Ethan, who realized he couldn't expect such beings to miraculously appear in his world. The ocelot, a renowned magical creature from the Americas, known for its upright walk and speed surpassing that of an arrow, intrigued Ethan. Its eyes possessed hypnotic and photographic powers, along with telekinetic abilities. Given that a house at Ilvermorny's School of Witchcraft and Wizardry was named after it and its hair used in the core of American wands, Ethan considered the possibility of obtaining ocelot claws during a future visit to the United States. The bear, a formidable creature from the east resembling a giant bear, was beyond Ethan's reach for the time being due to its distant origin. The griffin, however, presented a more feasible target. Native to Greece, this ancient magical creature, with the forelimbs, wings, and head of a giant eagle and the body, hind legs, and tail of a lion, was known for its ferocious temperament. Despite their rarity, griffins were once widespread across Europe and featured prominently in wizarding records. Nowadays, their presence had dwindled, with their descendants, the hippogriffs, being bred by wizards as substitutes. However, for Ethan, the distinction was crucial. While hippogriffs could serve as mounts, only griffins contained the medicinal properties needed for his elixirs. Considering the relative accessibility and historical significance of griffins compared to ocelots, bear, and owl beasts, Ethan decided to prioritize his search for griffins, embarking on a quest to find one of these majestic creatures. Chapter 40. Ethan spent the afternoon wandering around Diagon Alley, but did not gather any more information about the griffin. This creature has been elusive for too long, with its last known interaction with humans being with Newt Scamander in 1927. Realizing that he couldn't rely on hearsay, Ethan decided to take matters into his own hands. That evening, Ethan returned to his room at the bar early. He set up an incense burner on the floor, surrounded by 4 ivory ornaments. After lighting a fire and burning the incense, he began the magic ritual. Ethan was grateful to the Muggle world for its advanced industry. Ritual materials such as incense and ivory products would have cost a fortune in the magical world, 300 to 400 gold coins at least. However, thanks to the Muggle industrial system, the cost of these materials was reduced significantly. Ethan was able to acquire what he needed from a mall for less than £100. The spell Ethan intended to use was Know the Legend, a 4th-level prophecy spell. This spell allows the caster to obtain information about a significant person, place, or thing. The more the caster knows about the subject, the more specific the information obtained. This spell was crucial for Ethan's confidence in finding rare magical materials without prior knowledge. In preparation for this journey, Ethan had also learned several combat spells to prepare for potential conflicts. These included the 1st-level Petrification Curse, the 2nd-level Stun Curse, and the Expelling Curse, along with 0th-level spells like the Apparition Curse, Unlocking Spell, and Digging Spell. He further developed his arsenal with spells such as the 1st-level Grease Spell, the 2nd-level Mirror Imagery, the 3rd-level Suggestion, and the 1st-level Mage Armor. Additionally, he purchased several invigorating potions from his potions class to restore health. With his preparations complete and his wizard level upgraded to LV5, Ethan's magic power and resistance had improved. Although not as powerful as an adult wizard, his unique spells and the metamagic skill of Spell Instant Cast made him capable of holding his own against most adversaries, barring elite aurors or Death Eaters. Know the legend, seek the Griffon's beak, Ethan chanted as the incense smoke enveloped the room. He cautiously aimed to find just a Griffon beak, reasoning that it would be easier to locate than a whole Griffon. Perhaps an old wizard had an ancestral Griffon's skull hidden away? For a permanent potion, what mattered was the magical component within the material and its symbolic meaning. Magic, unlike science, involves not only the objective use of magical power and rule deduction, but also idealistic and subjective factors such as will, spirit, emotion, and various symbols. From a sociological perspective, the essence of a symbol is akin to a meme, a product of collective imagination in human social activities. For instance, a crow symbolizes the sun, making crow feathers suitable for potions with solar elements. Similarly, grasshoppers represent jumping ability, so their hind legs can be used in jumping spells. This explains why many ancient potion recipes include bizarre ingredients like liar's tongue and witch's drool. To muggles, these might seem nonsensical, but in the magical world, they hold significant power. Gods and ghosts are often considered products of human imagination. However, in the magical world, there's a principle that if you believe in something, it exists, and if you don't, it doesn't. This notion suggests that humanity's collective imagination can indeed have tangible effects. It's believed that in other realms, popularity, legends, and collective imagination can alter real history, granting historical figures powers they never possessed in their lifetimes, and even bringing fictional characters to life. Ethan's mission involves the Eternal Eagle Majesty Elixir, which requires griffin beak powder because the griffon symbolizes majesty, pride, and charm. This is evident from test popularity among muggles, where it's often depicted on royal and noble family coats of arms. The core ingredients of several other elixirs share this reliance on symbolic representation, which is why Ethan prefers a fossilized griffin over a hippogriff as a substitute. As the magic ritual progressed, Ethan became enveloped in incense, and a blurry vision flashed through his mind. He saw an artificially dug cave with a strange arrangement of huge rocks in front of it. Strange plants grew among the rocks, forming intricate patterns. In the center of this arrangement was a large stone with a circular hollow, as if something had once been embedded there. Nearby, several four-legged creatures resembling cartoonish alpacas with big eyes and various fur colors looked on at the stone formation, appearing somewhat silly. Half an hour later, Ethan snapped out of his meditation. The incense had dissipated, indicating that the vision was the result of the Understanding the Legend spell. Could this be the location of the griffon's beak that the Legend Master hinted at? He pondered. The artificial caves, stone formations, strange patterns, circular inlays, and the four-legged animals seemed familiar to him. Then it struck him. Could those animals be moon-crazy beasts? Ethan recalled reading about moon-crazy beasts in a book on magical creatures. These shy creatures only emerge from their caves at night under a full moon. They have smooth, light gray skin, slender legs, flat feet, and distinctive, bulging eyes. Under the moonlight, they perform complex dances, possibly as part of their mating rituals, leaving complex geometric patterns in wheat fields that baffle muggles. Realizing where he had seen such a scene before, Ethan exclaimed, "This is the Moonstone Garden." He remembered visiting this location in the game Hogwarts Legacy, controlling a fifth-year transfer student who explored the garden with his Hufflepuff girlfriend, Pappy. Considering the Moonstone Garden's location in Scotland, far from London and near the South Sea marshes outside Hogwarts, Ethan knew he couldn't reach it by ordinary means. However, he remembered the way. Determined, he grabbed his wand, packed a few vials of uplifting potion into his robe, and headed downstairs to the leaky cauldron's fireplace. He took a handful of flue powder, threw it into the flames, and as the fire turned green and surged, Ethan stepped in and shouted, "Irondale!" In an instant, he vanished into the flames. It seems there was a misunderstanding in your request. The text provided appears to be an advertisement or promotional message rather than a chapter or excerpt from a novel. Could you please provide a passage from the Harry Potter fan fiction you mentioned for enhancement and correction?